everybody. Welcome to Frame Trap. This is a show where we talk about video games, what we've been playing. We ask some questions. We play some games. We do some stuff. It's fun. It's easy going. Mm-hmm. Sitting next to me, essentially co-host of Frame Trap, Michael Huber.
Hello.
How you doing? Next to him, who doesn't get to be on Frame Trap too often. So I'm excited about this. I'm excited about this because you're on, and I'm also excited because something is happening that I never thought would happen, and we'll get into that. Michael Damiani at the end there.
How's it going, everyone?
It's going well. It's going well. Damiani, I don't think you'll be able to contribute to this, unfortunately, but we get to open today's Frame Trap with a gift. Michael Huber has handed me a present.
Wow.
I'm going to open it up right now. He's been doing something that I've wanted to do for a very long time that he's enjoying tremendously.
Yes.
Watching My Hero Academia.
Yes.
And you can give me an update.
Yes.
I don't think you've updated me on your opinion since you started, since the Huber syndrome.
Yes. So people out there, the allies are loving it. They like my routine updates. So pretty much any podcast I'm on, I'm going to be just giving a quick update as I catch up.
Yeah.
Just saw the video game thing, Plus Ultra. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, Plus Ultra.
You're going to be hearing Plus Ultra a lot.
Dude, Plus Ultra's amazing, Damiani. It's like going through video game style, destroying enemies and accumulating points.
Going even further beyond. Yeah.
So then there was like some massive Jaeger like neck thing, and Deku like awesome display
the test.
of power.
You're talking about the school test.
The
so
school
they're going
test.
to this prestigious school. Mm-hmm. You've gotten to see some of Deku's classmates at this point. Midoriya's classmates. Is there anybody that's really standing out to you?
The dude with glasses and the legs.
Ida.
Amazing.
Yeah.
When he like looked at Deku talking during the presentation. That's how I feel in movie theaters when people talk. He spoke to me. It was amazing.
Because I feel like a lot of times when I'm streaming or just when I'm talking with other allies and you're not there, we often identify Huber characters. Like, this will be somebody that Huber gravitates toward. Ida is not somebody that I would predict. Very straight-laced. Very by the book. Not necessarily qualities that I would assign to you.
Know.
But maybe you have that in you a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that what's going on?
Yeah, he was just... I think it was just because he was upset that Deku was talking over the instructor, and that resonated with me.
You've had experiences in movie theaters. Yeah.
I was like, Deku, man, quiet.
What's the infamous story? What movie were you at where you told you stood up and you told those people to stop talking?
Insidious 1 or 2.
I think that's right. I think it was Insidious. Okay. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
So, loving it. Loving All Might, like, coughing blood everywhere.
Yeah.
Excited to keep going.
Oh, man. If you ever get especially emotional during a scene, just call me because I want to be there for that emotion. I want to just receive it.
I should have, because the last one I watched was when his mom and All Might both said he was so cool.
Yeah.
I was like, yes!
I feel like Midoriya's mom is like secret best character on the show. There are some moments with her that are pretty damn amazing. Cool.
Loving it.
Yeah. Now we gotta get Damiani in this race. So Damiani's doing all this amazing work. Yeah.
I've been so close to watching My Hero Academia, like starting it.
Yeah.
But the only time I have time to watch stuff anymore is when I'm sitting down and I'm actually eating at my desk, and I don't want to have to read subtitles while I'm eating and stuff. So I always pick something in English, and I went with Star Trek Discovery, and now actually instead of starting My Hero, I restarted Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Nice.
And I feel so bad. I'm like, man, I should just like watch My Hero. It's right there.
But you love it, and you're enjoying it. That's okay. Watch what you want to watch.
People have told me the dub for My Hero is actually really, really good.
Yeah, I've seen like a couple of episodes in dub that I don't remember very well, but I've heard good things about the dub.
Dub's
also.
on Crunchyroll though; it's only on Funimation, so I'll have access to the subtitle.
I will give you my Funimation login if you want. I mean that. I will do that. You can have it. All you have to do is request it. Damiani, real quick before we get into the game discussion, I was thinking about like what have you been playing banter to dive into?
Yeah.
And I was thinking about Texas. You spent a lot of time in Texas. Like not even that long ago, you were living in Texas. And I realized like this is a part of your life that I don't know all that well, despite it being a place where you lived for most of your life? And is there any, I don't know anything about Texas. I've never been to Texas. Is there anything in Texas that like on a day-to-day or like every so often you miss? Are there things about that state that you long for?
The Longhorns.
The Longhorns.
Nah. No. I mean, the only thing I would say is, I mean, even though it's the South, it's still also part of like the same kind of like visuals and like kind of environments as like the Midwest, essentially. Like you would, like it's plains. It's like the Great Plains, like thunderstorms. You hear anyone who comes to like the Midwest or that area basically say, "Yeah, we had thunderstorms and stuff." And you come out to California, they don't have thunderstorms.
No,
they
rains.
barely have rain. Yeah, so that's the one thing that people bring up. And yeah, every now and then I'm like, oh, I every now and then on my phone I'll bring up a Rainy Mood. That website that just like plays like thunderstorms and rain sounds. Yeah, it's great.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised by this.
Actually, it was the movie Interstellar when Matthew McConaughey's character gives the guy, because he's like freaking kind of having a breakdown about being in space and being so far away. He goes, "Here, try this," and he puts on like the jungle and rain sounds.
Yeah.
Like he's like, "Oh," and it calms him down. I'm like, "Huh." You know what? I want to try that. Like, see if it helps going to sleep or something. And just looked up something similar. Said everything said Rainy Mood. Just went to that. I've
never tried sounds to fall asleep before. I just haven't. But rain is really
so
calming
soothing.
to me. Yeah. Love like just the sound of rain on windows. Might have to give that a try.
I go to sleep every night watching baseball.
Yeah, you always talk about that. Yeah.
You know,
insane.
I need something like that because what I used to do when I was really into Hearthstone, I would just fall asleep to Hearthstone streams like pretty much every night.
Nice.
And now I don't have that crippling addiction anymore. And so I need to find new. I guess I've been falling asleep to Dragon Ball Super. That's been pretty good. It's good, except
that's a good thing to fall asleep to.
When you wake up and you're like, oh God, it played like 5 episodes.
Yeah, true.
And then, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. You just have to go back and figure out where you were and what you remember. And all of that stuff. We have a stacked list of things to talk about. A lot of things that I'm very excited to talk about. Things that are, I think, up all of our alleys, to be honest with you. But I have to get started before anything else. I have to hear the Michael Damiani story with World of Warcraft. And with that,
For the whore.
Michael Huber's first impressions for Battle for Azeroth.
Nice.
So
look at that. Hubers. You're so pumped, man.
Yes.
I think it was when Warlords was out, and Damiani,
Draenor,
I think you were playing 14, and I was like, Damiani, you love 14, you played all the time. Why won't you play World of Warcraft? And you were very dismissive of it. You just had no interest. Which, like, I'm not saying this is a negative. You just knew you didn't want to play it.
Which ended up being a good thing because Warlords was like the low point.
So there's the truth. So what WoW does that 14 doesn't do, which is strange, is they have like the beta servers or whatever where people can like play the content ahead of time, I guess, or the public test realm or whatever it is. PTR.
Yeah.
Like 14 has nothing like that. They won't they're super secret about that. So the things I was hearing from some of the people who play 14 who also play WoW was that Draenor was like not shaking up to be that great, actually. They're like, yeah, people probably played for a week or two and then they're coming right back to WoW. This isn't something you should probably jump into WoW for at this point. So people who I trusted who were in the know about it said like, this isn't the expansion to get back into WoW. So I just hard out on it. I'm like, all right, I'll just stick with other stuff then. I won't give it a time of day. And that's the easy reason why. I was just being told by people.
I feel like I'm one of the only people that enjoyed aspects of Warlords of Draenor.
I like the garrison.
I enjoyed going through the story, but I think where Warlords fell apart is in the post-release support.
It's just any time I don't want to say I have a zero tolerance policy on it, but anytime it's like alternate realities...
Sure.
I think pretty much hard out.
I think that's fair.
It's like the Shrek 4 situation.
I think that's very fair.
Yeah.
I do. But
that was so bad.
You've taken a deep dive and you've done something extra insane, which I respect. You are not level boosting.
Yes.
You are going through...
There's a very specific reason why.
Why?
It's
what
a
is
belief
that
I
reason?
have.
A belief.
Well, because I think it's come up. I'm getting into Warcraft now for 2 reasons. Good buzz about Battle for Azeroth from people who were playing early access essentially, and saying this might be like this is a good time to get back in.
Is one of these inside sources Marco?
What? No.
Okay.
Though that crowd was like saying, "Come play with us. You know,
Okay.
come back and play WoW, dude. Like it'd be cool to see you like try and jump back in and stuff."
Sure.
People I play 14 with, yeah, we're gonna go play it for a few weeks and stuff. Like, come play it. And then you guys jumping in and playing like 14 for a while, like just because I asked you to. I know I didn't get it on Monster Hunter. Because I wanted to wait for like PC version, which I was just too tired, Ben. Like with my like how much I've been playing.
Yeah.
Like that same day I did a marathon. I was like, hey, chat, I'm gonna like download Monster Hunter World and try and stay up and play with Ben.
Yeah.
And chat was like, Damiani, no, you've been playing for like 14 hours.
Oh yeah.
Don't do that.
I mean,
and I couldn't make it. I went
on
to
one
bed.
hand, I'm slightly sad because a surprise Damiani play Monster Hunter would have been hype.
Yeah.
But I also respect the 14 hours of WoW low-level content.
Barons?
Right.
Yes. But I will get PC Monster Hunter World at some point.
Let's do it.
But back to your question, Ben, or why my belief. So, Final Fantasy XIV also introduced jump potions where people can skip.
How new is this?
This started in Stormblood.
Okay.
This is the first time they didn't allow it in Heaven's Ward. You could do. There's two different ones. Just skip the story, which will put you at the beginning of Stormblood. And then there's one and that one also comes with a job boost to 60, or you can just buy an individual job boost to 60. And the thing I have seen through playing 14 is there are a lot of people who come in and do that, and the community, they try and do their best to help, but you get these players who just don't know how to play the game. They're just there. They don't know from basics to like just etiquette stuff, and they stick out like a sore thumb. Mm-hmm. And I can't help but feel sympathy for them, but at the same time, I never wanted to be that. I saw that, I was like, wow, like I get it. Kind of stinks that they haven't gone back and reworked the game to make it easier to get to that point without a jump potion. So in 14's I think it's a little bit more egregious than other MMOs in terms of like that oversight where it's asking a lot. You reviewed Heaven's Ward, so you know how kind of excessive it is to require you to go back and play through the story to get to that point. Right. And jump potion was their solution. But going into WoW, I didn't want to be that person. I was like, I don't know the basics of WoW. It's been so long. I don't want to boost to like max level right now and then try and run content everyone. And they're like with rant like in pugs, and people are like, dude, do you know how to play? Like, what the heck? Like, do you know rotations? Like, this is an old dungeon. We're not gonna sit around. Like, you might get those players who are just like they're just running their dailies and stuff. Like the bonus, like run a classic dungeon for like bonus EXP. You're leveling another character or something like that. I've been through that. I've seen it. I've done it, and I just did not want to contribute to that, like being the ignorant player or trying to desperately catch up because not everyone is exactly friendly and stuff.
I respect that a lot. I think that's a good mentality because it's frustrating both being that person that has no idea what's going on and dealing with the people who have no idea. It's frustrating both ways.
Yes.
But the only thing that I would throw at you is that leveling content does not necessarily instruct you in the ways that you need to be instructed to perform at high level.
That is very true. I'm very well aware that like no amount of content in the game can get you prepped technically just to playing your class correctly.
At a certain level you kind of have to.
At a certain level you got to go beyond that. But it was more than just it'd been so long. I wanted to start from the ground level with WoW. I want to like get used, like get reacclimated to it. And I was like, it's not just like rotations and stuff like that. It's like basically how the game plays, how the world feels. Like I want to appreciate all this. So when I get to Battle of Azeroth, I can see kind of like the evolution of this game. I know I'm jumping in when they've tweaked a lot of stuff. It's over the years, but as I'm going along, I'm like in starter zones from like vanilla WoW era, and people are like, dude, why are you hanging around here? Like these zones don't look good anymore. Like wait till you get to like the new expansion zones. Your mind's gonna be blown. I'm like, well, I can't wait to see that, but like let's not rush there. Yeah. Let me I'm gonna appreciate it more. And this kind of goes hand in hand with like going back and like now I'm playing through Final Fantasy 11. I'm doing this because I want to gain a better understanding and appreciation of like the evolution of MMOs.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to go back and play EverQuest. That was like, no, that's too ridiculous. I'm not going back that far. Like that's a little too excessive for me, I think.
It wasn't that long ago that just for fun, I spent like a day revisiting EverQuest and going into like the new player area and just running. Like, I honestly think you would enjoy it, and I think it would be a very entertaining stream. I don't think you should go all the way.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And get to like max level.
How far are you going? And plus, I was like, that would be 4 MMOs at once. I don't know about that. Like, I think 11 is a good enough spot to be where it was kind of like the culmination of those MMOs up to that point, and then WoW, jumping into WoW now, it's also helping me see again more clearly. I think it, like growing as like, you know, a critic and like whatever journalist and stuff.
Yeah.
So like in the industry, seeing why WoW, not based on hearsay anymore, based on experience and recent experience, why this game was so important, how it achieved what it did. And like, I know I'm not playing vanilla WoW, but I still can see the fundamentals there about what this game did that no other MMOs at the time were doing, or at least didn't do well enough to become so popular like World of Warcraft did. And it's kind of like an amazing thing to see. To me, it's a lot of things, but one of the most obvious ones that I've seen so far is just through low level is this the focus on questing as character progression through leveling versus farming mobs, even in a party. I understand vanilla WoW, there was still some of that going on, but there was no level of questing to the extent of WoW in Final Fantasy 11. Even now, even with the refinements they've made, they don't even have something as simple as like, here's an icon above an NPC's head that tells you should interact with this person, and then it's going to give you some text, and then you can look up on a map and says it's going to go here. Everything is like purposely made very ambiguous. 11 and older MMOs, I think, were kind of designed to be interact with the player base. It is supposed to be a social experience. You're supposed to talk with everybody to learn how to play, and that's it. They're not, the game's not going to hold your hand. It's not going to guide you along. And I understand why some people appreciate that. I do see some people calling that, like, vanilla WoW servers are coming back because people want to re-experience that to some degree. But at the same time, I also see like why these companies, like why Blizzard made that decision to streamline some things in the name of, we want to get more people playing this. Because while the EverQuest was, you know, popular for its time, MMOs would not have gotten as big as they would have if not for WoW. If WoW didn't come along, they probably would never gotten as big as they had with WoW. And by playing this and then seeing that, I have a better appreciation of that. And yeah, it's just been a really good experience. So
you talked about doing multiple MMOs at the same time. Are you actively playing World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 11, and Final Fantasy 14 at the same time?
So technically, yes. So I'm in the Rise of the Zillart expansion in Final Fantasy 11. I'm doing that quest line now. So I've decided to stick to the main quest line in Final Fantasy 11, going through the expansions. I'm not doing any more side stuff that's like off the, like, that would be like side attraction stuff.
Can you still down level in 11?
Yes, you can. And it happened to me at one point. I was trying it. I just leveled down and stuff.
It's so intense.
I heard the sound effect. Yeah.
Over the years, I've wanted to poke at Final Fantasy 11 again, and where a mental barrier that I always erect for myself is I've probably missed it. Like, I've probably I played 11 when it came out. I played it for a while. I dropped it, and then I just would keep revisiting it. But I would always reach this point where I'm like, I just don't think I'm gonna be able to go as far as I want to. Like, I'm sure if I really committed to it, I could, but it just doesn't. I just didn't know if it would be worth it, or if I could really convince other people to play on a regular basis, or just, a bunch of excuses.
I think you hit the nail on the head with that. There is in no way, shape, or form that you can play Final Fantasy 11 now and get the experience of any semblance of what it used to be even a few years ago.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to get at.
Most of the players in that game are either max level veterans who are done. They'll level they'll level a new character or whatever for fun. Just to go through it again to see like how fast I can do it. You don't get an extraordinary amount of like new players into that game. So as a new player going through it, I played some of it before, but like I'm well beyond whatever I touched, 10 years ago. It's all done through these AI bots called Trust to help you form parties automatically. And it's relying on guides. It's relying on chat. People in game saying, "Oh, do this, do that." Like, they're basically telling me what to do because this is where actual player interaction used to come into play. You used to talk with players. You used to form a group with other human players. And while the Trust have done a good job of making it easy to level and get through most of the content, a lot of the boss encounter fights have been a disaster because you can't micromanage your Trust.
Right.
Like, they won't start until you engage the boss. You can't issue any specific commands to them. And a lot of the people who are veterans in the chat watching me play say, this is where a human player would make a big difference in this fight. And the closest I've gotten is over-leveled players come in to help me. Like, oh, I've tried it a few times. Like, dude, you're not going to beat it with Trust. Like, it's just not possible unless you really know this game inside out. And you got to be on a different job too. Like, your job's not best equipped to deal with this. Let us just come in and like get you through this stuff. You've seen all the mechanics and stuff. Like, it's cool. And yeah, you completely to wrap it up, you are completely right. The social aspect is just like gone from that game in terms of being a new player. You're never getting that again.
I tuned in at the perfect time, Damiani, when you were fighting. Like, there was like a brother betrayal. And you were doing the voices. It was amazing.
Speaking of the social experience, Michael Huber, the social experience in WoW has changed a lot and has been criticized a lot. And there is, just speaking in very general terms, kind of been this like, WoW doesn't feel especially social anymore. It's just kind of people going and doing their own thing and going to dungeons and just not even talking, just kind of running through it. Just sort of an autopilot experience.
Totally.
Do you think Battle for Azeroth is an autopilot experience, or are they doing things that making it exciting to be part of this community again?
The biggest change is PvP now. Back to its roots, baby.
What does that mean?
World PvP is back. You can opt in or opt out.
I saw that.
You get to decide if you want to play it that way, play how you want to play, which I'm always a fan of nowadays. Yeah. Love it. And to kind of go back before I go forward, I've played WoW since the beginning. Every time an expansion comes out, I do a check-in, and play for a couple months. And going from the transition of like old school Burning Crusade, Lich King, where it was so much more social, where people would gather outside of dungeons physically. They would physically fly, like ride to the dungeon and wait there and try to group up. I miss that, of course. I love that classic style of World of Warcraft. Now, as I'm old man Huber, in my 30s, there's so many video games. It's my first steps in Battle for Azeroth have been like easy going because of how accessible it is,
Sure.
And that's
been appreciated.
But it's also been a transition that I've worked up to now for years, with Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria and Warlords of Draenor. Like, I'm used to its accessibility and, easiness now. Dungeon Finder and all that, like those are things that really changed the way you interacted with the game. The difference now, though, with Battle of Azeroth, I think, is the world PvP. So the ease is still there, but now because of the story and Sylvanas burning the tree down and all these crazy things and Horde vs. Alliance again, now it feels like more social interaction because people are taking more pride in their class and their side,
Right.
So, well, nothing has really changed other than world PvP, of course, opting in. There's the accessibility and the ease is still there. It's people care more. There's just this fervor. There's this interaction of like, when you're doing a dungeon or a quest together with other Horde people now, it's like, yo, we're Horde. We got this. We're together. It feels less isolated and more social.
Which is a huge part of it. I don't think you can deny that a fundamental component of World of Warcraft is kind of being able to take pride in that side that you picked and going to war. Having huge battles against the other side. That can be really exciting when done well.
Yeah.
But is it just that sort of like narrative narratively infused tribalism, or is it like, hey, we're gonna give you cool things for engaging in this world PvP?
So I'm not far enough, but yeah, you get PvP talents, which is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Huge thing. You get like 10% or 15% like XP boost.
That is, I like that
for doing it.
Because that's what everyone was explaining to me.
A lot of incentive.
They're like, you got to get, so as I understand it, you can only toggle this option. It's called War Mode. You can only toggle it on in Orgrimmar. You can only toggle it on there, so you can't like abuse this outside of it, essentially. And when you turn it on, you get a bonus experience. So by just doing regular quests, you level up faster, but it's risk reward. It's like now you like can get marks on you and stuff like a flag, which is really awesome. So cool. But it now obsoletes the concept of PvP or PvE servers. Every server is the same. You turn it off, it's just a PvE server for you. No one can interact with you unless you kill NPCs and you get flagged for that. If you turn it on, it's now a PvP server. Anyone who has that mode on, you can engage them.
And they
stuff.
Streamlined all the communities and the way people play together. Like it's easier than ever to play with anyone.
So as somebody who's a big fan of World PvP, we all have moments when we can think of like being just heavily terrorized by the other faction, trying to get done with the quest, and you stand no chance against somebody who's much higher level than you, and they just make it so you just can't do the quest. Have you had that nostalgic experience?
Not yet. Okay. I'm only 112, barely played. They start you on two.
Others?
Not yet.
No, but did you back in the day?
Oh yeah.
I mean, but like
body camping? Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Just the little guys.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Everyone. All right. Yeah. Going to Terran Mill, full war zone. Brad, myself, multiple of our friends. Brad's brother and I had like. Brad and I was talking about it. When it was just me and his brother, though, his brother Matt, we used to get in so many little scrapes and duels. It was just so many moments and so many stories I could tell. But what's great, too, with World PvP is that if you're killing the other side a bunch, you're flagged on the map.
Yep.
And a bounty goes out on you. So I was in the zone last night, just like turning some quests in, not really playing, but like I saw an Alliance guy fly overhead, and then on the map, his icon showed up, and it was like, yo, if you kill him, you get a ton of like bonus honor. And then the chat was going off like, yo, we got to go get so-and-so. Yo, he's flying over here. So it was like giving me that old school feeling. I love it.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That is really awesome. It seems like they've really brought back something that was essential to the game in an extremely smart way.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the highlight of Battle for Azeroth for you? Is it the story? Are they changing stuff up with the quest?
It's everything, Ben. It's the story. I've never been this emotionally invested in it since Arthas, obviously. There's a lot of cutscenes. The pre-patch event was phenomenal. They're adding, they have like the cinematics outside of the game, like the old soldier cinematic. I'd encourage everyone to watch that one.
So are you heavily invested because of just the presentation and the outside stuff that they're doing, or because of what it is itself?
The presentation and just how high stakes everything feels. I mean, Sylvanas did a crazy thing. She murdered a bunch of innocents. It is like trying to get to the root of what it means to be Horde. Like, there's so many feelings coming back that have that have grown with me for so many years. It's really intense. So I like. This is the first time, again, since Lich King, where I've like wanted to get through the expansion quickly, not because I wanted to hit max level and start raiding with everyone, but because I want to see the cutscenes, dude. I want to see like how this all plays out. So
it's interesting that you bring up Lich King, because you think about Warcraft 3 and then the carryover into World of Warcraft, and it's like, well, this is why this conflict is happening in the first place, is because of what's going on with this character and the buildup that they've had and his downfall and huge surge of power. And ever since that point, it's just kind of feel like it's splintered off and then tried to wrap back around, and it just hasn't felt at that level, I think, since Lich King. But it sounds like for you, it's reached that point again.
Absolutely. And the fact, again, we talked about a bunch about World PvP. Brad and I are PvP over Dungeons and Raids for World of Warcraft. We love PvP. And the last bunch of expansions, like PvP has kind of been on the back burner, you know? So it's nice that PvP right now is at the forefront, like at the top of Battle for Azeroth. You know, they not only have world PvP and being able to turn war mode on, they have the island expeditions, which I haven't even been to yet. Do you know about these?
I do not.
So there's island expeditions.
Don't know anything about it.
Island expeditions, you take a little boat into a randomly generated island with 2 other people, so it's 3 of you, and you go to the island and you like scavenge for loot against other NPCs, but you can also opt in to battle Alliance or Horde. So it'll be 2 teams of 3 on an island to collect the resources first. So it's kind of like a mini battleground arena PvE PvP situation, which sounds amazing. I can't wait for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is really tough to listen to because
I know how bad you want to play it.
Well, I do, but it was one of those things where Battle for Azeroth was coming, and I sat down and I was like, "Am I going to play this?" And I was like, "Man, I've been playing World of Warcraft on and off, and like very heavily on and off. It hasn't been a constant since 2004 by any means, but it's something that has been orbiting around my life for a very long time." And I was like, "This seems cool, but I've played so much of it, and I just don't know if it's worth sacrificing other things for this now." But I feel like what you're describing sounds a lot more special.
It's special
and
right
interesting than I was expecting.
Yeah.
Like,
Ben.
this doesn't necessarily just feel like, yeah, it's another WoW expansion.
Yeah.
Where it has all of the tacked on points. It feels like they are trying things that I did not expect them to try, and it sounds like they're executing on those things maybe a little bit better than expected too.
Absolutely. Like, I was pretty lukewarm on Battle for Azeroth and even Legion, you know? Hit level cap in Legion and I was like, all right, I'm good, you know?
Yeah.
You know, bringing Illidan back, and that just didn't feel as special.
It was one of those weird things where I really enjoyed Legion, but do you have those experiences where you kind of take a step back and you're like, I like this, and if asked to give reasons why I liked it, I could come up with very specific, like, this was done well, or they presented this in an interesting way, but it also didn't, like, excite you.
Yeah.
You know, the good things that don't necessarily get you riled up.
Yes.
And it sounds like Battle for Azeroth is, like, riling you up the most Warcraft has in, like, a decade.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
It feels like a big historic moment right now.
Oh
like,
my
you
God.
know, for the World of Warcraft retrospectives, we're going to be talking about the burning of the tree. We're going to be talking about, you know, bringing world PvP back in this way. Like, Horde versus Alliance, back to its roots. Just feels good.
Fuck.
I know. I feel the same way. Like, I'm playing it, but, like, not really. I have so much other shit to do.
Right,
like,
right.
I feel like I'm not going to be level capped for, like, a month.
There's no
There's no rush.
practical
There's no
justification
rush.
for it. Yeah. It's
No
just,
rush.
but it also feels like the moment too. I don't know. Yeah. This bears consideration, I think. Yeah.
It's all right. Damiani's only level like 32. You got time to catch up.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, leveling up the one
Don't
thing.
only watch like Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, and Dragon Ball Super in like a week. So I think by the time this episode is over, he might be level capped.
That hyperbolic chamber, baby.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm looking forward to, though, is because I'm still in the early parts of World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
The story isn't as focused at the moment. It's still very non-linear. It just kind of goes through its own threads here and there. And everyone's like, just wait till you get to like end of Lich King into Cataclysm, dude. Like,
Even Burning
the story,
Crusade.
like, they're like, the story will get way more focused and like, oh man, you're gonna like love it and stuff. I can't wait to get to that point because I never got to that point, or I didn't realize I got to that point when I played it before. So being more cognizant of it this time, I'm really excited for that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a real quick thing, Huber. The last time I played WoW and I did my first dungeon, we had to gather in person. There was no equivalent of like the duty or instance finder, essentially, like party
Isn't that
finder.
crazy?
Yeah, I was like, oh, they have this now in WoW. Like every MMO has this now. But I remember, it was like an ordeal getting people together and stuff, and having to be in the physical location. Like,
Even for quests, I remember the very first quest that I needed to group up for was counterattack. I'll never forget that quest. It's in the Barrens. It's called Counterattack! And like a bunch of quill boars or something come, and it's like this huge battle. And it was like one of the earliest examples of a quest where it was like, man, this is really hard to solo. And it forces you to get out of your comfort zone and be like, hey, is anyone around here? Like, does anyone wanna help me out on this? Like, counterattack?
I think that's also part of the problem with me in World of Warcraft is when we get into these conversations, it's so easy to slip into like, oh, do you remember this one time or the way things used to be? Because it's still... Like, it's heavily changed, absolutely, but it's still the same game.
Yeah.
Like, we're still working from the same core here, whereas, like, you think about your nostalgia for other things, say, like Mario or Mega Man or something, where, yes, you like this formula, but there are other games where they changed the way it looks, the way it feels, and admittedly, they've done that in Warcraft as well, but I don't think it's necessarily as obvious, right? Like... World of Warcraft is still identifiable as World of Warcraft. It's not like World of Warcraft 3.
Yeah, visual upgrades aside.
I think sometimes when you have that experience, I'm kind of competing against my own memories where it's like, I want this to feel like the way Outland made me feel for the first time. But I was a different person then. I had different expectations for MMO. The fact that I was playing with other people was still mind-blowing. And so it can be a little bit complicated, I think, where... And maybe this is just an excuse, but sometimes it feels like you're fighting with your past memories more than what's actually there.
That's why it's so cool, though, too, Ben, because this is a journey we've been on for over a decade. You know? And what other games can you say that about?
Right.
Like, I've been playing this since high school.
Right. And these
still got my, like, items and stuff, you know? It's so cool.
And when you say, like, Sylvanas burned the tree, that's not, like, some new expansion, whatever villain making plays. It's like, this is a character that we've been following for years that's doing something dramatic. Jaina's doing dramatic things. It's like, okay, they're making this matter, and you have to respect that.
Yeah. The story feels like it matters.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. It's good. It's really good.
It was a mistake having you both on this podcast. We've been talking about World of Warcraft for a long time. I am enjoying this conversation, but we also have a ton of other games to talk about. Are we okay with moving on, panel?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Hubert, there's a game. I'm doing this for me just because I love it so much, and I know you really like it too. A game that I didn't realize I had underestimated until I played it, and that is Dead Cells.
Dead Cells.
You had the pleasure of reviewing it, and you quite enjoyed it. You gave it an 8.
Yes. The dreaded 8.
Well, we can definitely go into the review if you want, but I'm more interested in hearing your opinions about the game, how they changed over time, and how you feel about Dead Cells as a whole. Because for people who aren't familiar, it is a metroidvania game where it is brutally punishing. You die, you're starting over. Not just like you're starting over at a point, you are starting over completely.
All the way back.
And there are some upgrades that you can get that you can carry over, but it is something that when you're fighting bosses, it's just so stressful because you know how much you're going to have to do again.
Yeah.
Or at least it feels that way.
Totally. You'll get so fast, though, Ben, that like that's what's so cool about it is the way the game rewards you for learning. You know, and that's what I really love is, you know, what took me 30 minutes at first to get to the first boss, I was doing in like 7 or 8, just flying through, you know, and that's exciting.
Yeah, and Dead Cells also does something that I really respect, where you find different weapons and you can combine all of your different weapons in creative ways. You can have them play off each other, and that's really fun, just coming up with builds. But you're also extremely capable just out the gate. There are tricks that you can do. You have a wide tool set that makes it really fun at the start. It's not kind of like, oh man, I'm starting over, I don't have anything. It's like, oh, I can use doors to stun enemies. I can slam down and hit multiple doors at the same time.
Slam down.
You'll give me a shield immediately that will let me parry. The roll feels really good. There's just kind of a tightness there that makes it fun to engage with at the most basic level.
Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I I love it. The music, obviously, the music is addicting. I do like that it gives you random weapons each time.
Yeah.
It can be a little frustrating, but like, it's the nature of the game, But like say you just want to get through, you're trying, you want to have a good run, you got a little time to kill, you want to get a good run, and it gives you some like random weapon you don't care about. You're just like but it gives you opportunities to find other weapons and kind of forces you and pushes back, which not enough video games do these days.
Right.
It pushes back on you and it says, yo, you got to learn to use this entire tool set, which can be pretty intense.
Yeah, that was actually you touched on it there, and I'm still in my I have not finished Dead Cells. I'm still in my exploratory phase with it, but like I have right now, I have a freeze sub weapon, and freezing is just so
blast?
Yeah, it's just a
So
freeze
fun.
blast. It's
So fun.
but it's fun, but it's so extremely powerful. And I think to myself, why would I ever not want this?
Yeah.
And then I the question is just this indicative of good design where it's like, oh, so many things are viable, or did you run into a situation where it's like, I am having less fun now because of what I have? Because I think when you talk about being challenged and having to roll with the punches, that's all well and good if you're enjoying that, right? But if you feel like you're not getting something that is such a huge advantage that it just kind of ruins the experience for you, if you know what I mean. Like where you're like, well, I might as well just end this run and re-roll. Like, that's not really a fun experience to go through.
Yeah, I did that, like, I did that, I played it so many times, but I did that, like, less than 5 times. But I did do that when I got, like, the Nutcracker and, like, the whip or something. I was like, I just re-roll really quick.
Right, because I think it's okay using stuff that isn't necessarily the most powerful if there's something about it that gives you like a unique advantage that you couldn't get with maybe the most powerful stuff.
Yeah.
But when it's just purely weaker and you're not having as much fun, I don't know.
Exactly.
So
yeah, and that's something I didn't touch on in the review was that because I always battle in my reviews of like how deep do I want to dive into the mechanics? Am I going to write a guide right now? Like. So I didn't really talk about the fact that like would get to the final boss so many times, died, he killed me so many times. But then I realized that some of the items give you damage reduction. So like the fire grenade, I had a fire grenade that for some reason when I have this grenade in my inventory, it's like, all right, you take 20% less damage. So then I stacked those. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm never changing these out. Like, get this every time because I'm taking half damage.
Yeah.
Then the Crudgel shield, you pump that thing up. That's another like huge damage reduction. As soon as I figure that out, like cakewalk. It's just a matter though of obtaining those items. It's not as simple as that's the best, I'm going to pick it, that's the meta, boom. It's like, no, this is random every time. Like, you're not necessarily going to get it. You have to learn how to use everything.
Right, which I guess on the flip side, just arguing with myself and having those not fun runs, I guess that also makes it even more exciting when you get that super powerful thing.
And then you die with it, and you're just like,
Right. So there is obviously a benefit there. But you were talking about Dead Cells pushing back, and something that it does that I love that you do see it does happen, but not enough is things that are good but have severe drawbacks. So you really have to question your use of them. So I got a blood sword where I was like, this does so much damage, but I also take twice as much damage. And every time I get a new weapon, I kind of have to compare it with that and really think about like, okay, what am I facing? Am I going to be able to deal with this? Can I work around this disadvantage? Because in so many games, it's just, is the number green? Am I going to get more stats? I pick it. It's just a very linear sort of progression, and having to make real decisions beyond just this does more DPS is so satisfying.
So amazing.
Yeah.
And every time you play too.
Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable that you really have to think every single time you start a run. Just from what are you going to take, to which route you're going to take. Also, there's benefits to speed running it. There's doors that open up that are on like a lock. They lock after
a timer, right? Yeah,
exactly, they're timed doors.
Oh, those always make me feel so bad.
So it's like, do I want to sprint and be efficient and like pick stuff up and hit that door, or do I really want to clear out this environment to find all the upgrades and just take it really slow and find all those scrolls? So it's like, every single run is so different, and so it just, like you said, at a basic level, it just feels good.
Right. I'm really glad that you brought up those doors, because if given the opportunity in these games, I'll always be like, no, I want to explore everywhere. I want to pick up everything. And just, that is so far outside my comfort zone that it's exciting. Like, just being like, no, I have to get to that door is stressful in a really good way. And speaking of like dealing with this interesting decision, so you have basically these 3 categories that you can puff up. Like brutality, the green one,
survival,
and
tactics. I believe.
Tactics, okay. Yeah. And you have different weapons that will fall into those different categories, and so obviously when you level that up, you'll get a bonus to that specific type of weapon. So if you're primarily using a brutality weapon, you're like, oh, let me just level that up. Well, where it gets interesting is you will get different health boosts. Yeah. And that, like, so it's like, okay, I'm not really going to get a huge damage benefit for picking the green one, but it'll give me 15% more health.
Yeah.
And so that becomes a really tough decision.
Totally.
And then you factor in like the boons where you're getting, like, it's like, oh, I picked this bonus, even though this isn't a weapon. If I invest in one of these 3 categories, that bonus will also.
Then there's the mutations as well.
That's what I'm talking about. The mutations.
Yeah, and you can
that's what I'm talking about. That was the name I was missing.
And you can like re-roll stats, and there's like a shopkeeper. It's just in a lesser refined game, it would be all of these systems, like, it would just be too much. And I feel like there's so much here and so much strategy and so much to dig into on every run, but it's never really overwhelming. The only thing that's overwhelming is like, obviously, the enemies and the difficulty. You're like, all right, here we go, because you can die pretty quickly. So,
yeah, I saw a clip of Ben fighting what appeared to be a boss-like character. A character
they have a health bar at the bottom.
Yes,
that's a boss. Yeah,
and I saw it in other reviews as well. And you just like beat it with you dropped some kind of like projectile firing thing on the ground.
The trap.
Yeah, and you just like eked it out, and like you're like,
I had a tiny sliver of health.
How stressed and like but relieved you were at the end. I was just like, oh wow. But like learning how the game works, I was like, okay. That definitely adds way more tension to those boss fights, knowing you lose everything, you go back, and the randomization of the items you can get on your next run. I was like, okay, now you might be forced to deal with,
and the layout of the level changes a lot.
It is beyond cliche to say this, but I absolutely think it is true in Dead Cells. I got through that boss fight by the skin of my teeth, but had I died, even in the moment, I was like, nope, I messed up that dodge, I hit the wrong button, and every single time with these games, that's what you want to be able to say. It's not like, oh, this wasn't clear, I couldn't see the attacks, this wasn't communicated well. It was like, no, every time I mess up, it's my fault. And that's what I haven't obviously been to the final boss.
The final boss,
I'll have those frustrations there.
Is divisive.
Yeah. I'm excited because I'm so high on the game right now that I'm interested to see how I respond to that.
Absolutely.
To that boss. We like it. Damiani...
Damiani probably already beat it like 9 times.
No, I like it is on my list. Yeah. Seeing your review, Huber, and seeing the streams of it, it's just the more I see it, the more like I need to jump into this game, and I will eventually. I definitely will. And it definitely appeals to a lot of my interests.
I feel like we've missed out. I really want to play it couch co-op, where everyone just gets a run. It's such a good like.
Oh yeah.
It's such a good. It's like, I feel like it's perfectly made for it. It's you just. All right, here's my run. When I die, hand it off. Know, because it's such like small.
But it's also one of those things where, like we did Ghosts and Goblins for the group stream, and I feel like if we tried to get through that game the whole way, we'd be handing it off every like minute.
Ghosts and Goblins,
yeah. With Dead Cells, I feel like everybody would get a good run in. It would be dramatic.
Totally. That's a good tournament.
That is a good tournament.
Get far and dead cells.
It would definitely fill up 2 hours pretty easily. There's a game that I'm bringing to Frame Trap that I can't believe I get to bring it to Frame Trap, and obviously I'm going to have a lot more to say about it in my review and on other Frame Traps, and other people are going to come and they're going to talk about it on Frame Trap. But I want to tell you about my first impressions on Dragon Quest XI.
Whoa, dude.
Oh.
So we got
not expecting this.
We got a review copy.
Dropping the bombshell.
I've been playing it, and Dragon Quest XI is something that got announced what feels like eons ago, and so we've been waiting for a very long time, and everything that we've seen, except for some very understandable complaints with the music, has looked extremely promising.
Right now, Ben, has the music bothered you?
You know, there was...
Let's go.
A little bit. I don't think the music thing bothers me as much as it bothers other people, but it definitely bothered me a little bit.
Okay.
There was a dramatic scene, and the music was just not meshing with what was going on. We actually... It's the same scene that we actually ended up watching on stream and seeing it in-game and having the build-up to it. It was like this... The music sounds a little... carnival-y for this like intense chase that's going on. I'm not necessarily getting the drama. However, I would say in a lot of other situations, the kind of the music, which right? If you've played other Dragon Quest games, you will have heard a lot of these songs before. Kind of fits with the ridiculous enemies and kind of the very cutesy, charming nature of Dragon Quest, that it's not like I'm constantly going like, this music. It was just like that one scene. It definitely stood out to me, but it hasn't been a constant bother so far.
Got it.
There's still a lot of Dragon Quest XI to go. But I do feel like I can say a lot. I feel like the game has shown me a lot, and outside of that music complaint and maybe a little bit of a minor criticism with the skills, there really is not much to complain about. And I mean that.
Before you take the deep dive,
yeah,
I have one last really intense personal question.
Sure.
Way too much drama. It's not that intense. The difficulty.
Yeah.
How is the difficulty? Because
sure. I think
the stakes are high for me. Dragon Quest VIII has yet to be surpassed with its difficulty. I love it. It can be a little bit grindy, sure. But I love that in a JRPG. Maybe not Octopath Traveler level of grindy, but right. I love a little bit of a grind. I love hard boss encounters.
Right.
Is that there?
So that is a question that I do not feel... I'm going to answer it, but that needs to come with the explanation of I feel like I'm going to spend over 100 hours in this game or around that mark. I am still in the first 10 hours of this game, and so obviously a lot can change. And I'm just playing on the default settings. I would like to go around and mess with as much as possible.
Yeah.
No, it's not hard. Okay. I would never say that based on my experience so far that it is hard. However, I will say this. I can be okay with that when it's not like the early goings of Ni no Kuni 2 was for me, where it's just like, I am sleeping through this.
Mash it out.
There's not even the facade of danger. When I'm fighting boss fights, and I wouldn't say I'm doing hyper intense grinding. I'm definitely leisurely exploring, fighting enemies when I see them. I would say I'm doing it very standard levels of preparation for these encounters. When I'm fighting boss fights, it's oh god, I need to heal.
Yeah.
That tension is there. When they
the danger of a random mob in the field wiping you, I haven't run into anything where it's oh god, I can't take this. But because I love that danger, you know, when you're just
and you think about the early goings of Dragon Quest VIII, and you're oh wait, I need to
go back to the
prepare
inn
for this. Yeah.
I took a few steps out. I already need to go back.
No. It's not quite like that. That slap in the face, pay attention kind of moment. But I would say during the boss fights there is some amount of tension. I don't want to oversell it. I don't want to undersell it. It's just it's there in an appreciable degree for me.
Got it. Cool. Sweet.
But I imagine that opinion will change over time because thinking about my experience with Octopath Traveler, the only things that gave me any amount of trouble were the like second tier of jobs in those boss fights, and then the like final dungeon.
Yeah.
But the combat was interesting enough, and those things were challenging enough that it ended up being very satisfying overall. And so it's like, yeah, nothing is that bad yet, but let's get to the end of the road and see what's going to happen.
Totally.
But there's so many good things to say about Dragon Quest XI. And people talk about Dragon Quest being very traditional a lot, and I think you're going to find that here. If you've played Dragon Quest games before, you're going to know what to expect. I mean, if you want to be absolutely reductive about it, it is you slowly acquiring a party, going on in turn-based battles, leveling up, getting new abilities, casting fireballs.
Saving the world.
Right, being a chosen one. Yeah, you can be absolutely reductive about it, but I think the devil's in the details with Dragon Quest XI. And what I mean by that is this is a game that feels like it has a strong command of the genre, where like, yes, on a basic level, on a surface level, you'd be like, yeah, it's doing all of these super traditional things, but the way in which it's doing it is really interesting. And not to make constant comparisons to Octopath Traveler, but like have some sympathy. I'm going from Octopath Traveler into Dragon Quest XI, so these things are very fresh in my mind right now.
Yeah.
In Octopath Traveler, one of my biggest complaints was, okay, it's fine to have a structure with these character chapters where it's like a little bit of story, a little dungeon, some more story, we're done. But when you do that like 32 times, it gets less interesting. Dragon Quest XI is constantly doing things to mix it up in ways that I just absolutely was not expecting. And it doesn't do it in an annoying way where it's like, oh, this is so dramatic that it's like getting tiresome, this feels gimmicky. It is just making moments exciting, kind of just catching you off guard just enough for you to be interested and want to play this for long periods of time, to not get burned out by constant battles or just selling items and inventory management. Like, there's so much going on here, and an example of that is it's like, okay, I start in this very small town, and it's a very typical experience. It's like, oh, now I'm escaping from prison. Now I don't want to be seen by the guards. Now a dragon is chasing me. Now I'm going to a dungeon, knocking out an enemy that I can ride on and like climb up walls. And the spaces that they're giving you are wide enough to remain interesting. Like, there's a town that you go to. You kind of go to this bad part of town, and it's like, I'm walking across tight ropes. I can jump. I'm jumping on top of buildings to find items. That it just feels like a really well thought out, really well paced, extremely varied experience that, because of how well crafted it is, seems like it'll be able to justify its super long length. And I think that's really important.
How's the economy?
The economy is pretty standard so far.
So you're not strapped for cash?
I'm not really strapped for cash, but I wouldn't say I'm swimming in cash either.
Yeah.
When I go and it's like, okay, I want to upgrade gear, like, that puts a dent in my wallet. I feel it.
Yeah.
So it's not meaningless. But I think the thing that kind of offsets it and is even more exciting is you get this portable forge. And I love this thing. I love it. There was something that was kind of like this in Dragon Quest X as well. But what it is you get items and you can forge your own equipment. And so far, a lot of the stuff that I've been able to forge is better than what I've been able to find in shops. And you actually have to play a little game in order to make the item. And so you'll put it in your forge and it'll break down the thing in different parts. So let's just say, for example, you put a sword in there and it will break the sword down into 4 squares.
Yeah.
You have to hammer each of the 4 squares and you try to line it up just perfectly. And if you get it done well,
so fun.
That sword will be more powerful than a standard version of that sword.
Dude.
And to kind of alleviate, I guess, some of the stress, as you forge, you'll get perfectionist pearls. And if you're like, I could have done that one better, you can consume that item to do it again.
Got it.
To re-roll that.
Is this...
So you're not wasting items.
Is this payback right now for us talking about WoW?
Oh, like just the torture? Sorry, I'm not trying to torture you. I just...
Payback time.
It's one of those things where we've been talking about Dragon Quest XI for so long, and I've just been so excited about it that it's nice to be able to tell people, like, here's why I think it's so good, and what it's showing me that's really impressive.
Highly positive.
Yeah, extremely positive, and I really
expectations.
Think yeah. And like expectations were so high, but the Forge is great because it's really rewarding me for this thorough exploration. Where it's like, wait, I found this like thing of cloth in this corner. I'm really glad I went all the way over there in that corner to get that thing so I could forge this item. And that's what you want. You want that payoff for the exploration.
Totally. Are there like recipes for that?
Yes, there are recipes, and that's another thing that you can get by exploring, by doing side quests.
Can you like read books in the shelves and
so there are shelves you can go,
cool.
and it'll like in the first town there'll be one that's like, hey, monsters are stronger at night.
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
So cool.
That is really good. And I talked about this when I played just a tiny bit of the Japanese version, but not enough can be said about the visual presentation. There are some minor complaints here. So the character's hair animates, and it's not always done very gracefully. Where like they're talking to each other, and it looks like their hair is its own creature, and it's like, wait a minute, like I get that you're trying to express that hair is moving in the wind, but this is so overdone that it doesn't feel natural.
This info's already, I'm sure a lot of the info's out because it's been out in Japan, but can you change armor cosmetically?
Yeah, well,
because 8 was just a weapon, which was always like, oh, it's cool.
So when in my inventory in the game, there was the Hero's armor from Dragon Quest VIII, and when I put that on,
okay, yeah, that's right.
You looked like that, but not every piece of armor does that. So like if you equip leather armor, you'll still look like the standard character.
Got it. Okay.
But your weapons, different weapons that you equip, will change in battle, and so those will all look different. So there is a cosmetic change.
Is the 8 armor an armor or like a special outfit?
It's an armor.
Okay.
It's okay, like very early on, but it gets outclassed pretty quickly. However, you can forge a much better one, which I have not been able to do yet, but so if you really want that 8 look,
no, it's 11. Let it breathe,
Yeah, just some people out there.
For sure. I respect it. I'll definitely throw it on for nostalgia vibes.
Yeah, no, it was fun throwing it on for a while, definitely.
Kill some slimes.
But yeah, there are also some weird texture stuff where there was like a moment where I was running on a log, and it's like it wasn't like that sharp pop in where it's like, oh, this looks terrible, and then it looks fine, and it's just like kind of a blink. It was like layering it on, where it's like it looks a little better, and then a little better.
Yeah.
And that happens sometimes. Like there was a golden bird statue where it like definitely took a long time for it to kind of look as good as it wanted to.
Playing on Pro.
I'm playing on a PS4 Pro. Yep, I'm playing it on PlayStation 4. I'd like to check out the PC version too.
Are there any 4K? Is it like 4K 60
or
not that I've
seen?
Okay.
I believe it is just 1080.
Cool.
30.
Cool.
I
Maybe down the line.
I believe that is correct. I hope that's not wrong.
That'd be cool. I remember Witcher got like a 4K patch like way down the line.
I don't want to hammer on the presentation too much because it's honestly one of the best parts of the game. Like outside of those little nitpicks, the way that the enemies animate is just the best thing ever. Like when you run into these like guys that are just they look like they're made of jelly and they animate that way, or when you run into a cruel cumber and you kill it and they've done animations like this in the past, but just the fidelity and the amount of detail that they go into, it's fun just watching these critters move around. And that's what you want. When you're going to be fighting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things, you want them to look good. And I believe I had like a very similar praise when we were talking about the Japanese version, and that is still totally true. The thing about the skills that I want to talk to you about, because this was kind of similar It's been similar kind of in other Dragon Quest games, but the way that it works is you have these characters who are very defined characters, and you can kind of take them down different paths. So it's like, okay, for the hero, do I want to emphasize like sword and shield? Do I want to emphasize great swords?
Got it.
That sort of thing. It's fine. It's a totally fine system, but pretty quickly it's like, okay, I want to continue down this path. I want to continue down sword and shield. I level up, I get like 2 points. I need 6 more to be able to get the next thing.
Yeah.
And so it just feels a little drawn out for me. And you are still leveling up and just getting new abilities by default.
Yeah.
You are getting new spells and stuff. But I guess sometimes it just feels a little bit anticlimactic where it's like, I level up and I can't do anything with these points.
Yeah. But that long-term investment, I'm sure once you put like way more hours in, you start getting those.
Yeah, there are like ultimate skills that you can get. And again, this is just the early going.
Yeah, for sure.
But the skills that I'm getting are not like the most exciting things. It's like, okay, well, I have a 2% chance to crit more. And it's like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That costs a lot of points. Or like now I have an attack that can poison people. And it's like, that's fine, but not... It is just a very delayed gratification that I'm not always sure matches up with the time that it takes. And I don't want to
Early going.
oversell it because you do level up pretty quickly. It's not like it takes forever to level up or anything like that. Don't get the wrong impression that you're not getting new stuff at a good clip. You are. It's just a system where I'm like, this is fine, this is serviceable, but it's not blowing me away in terms of character progression.
Got it.
So it's okay.
Hyped.
But yeah,
me hyped, Ben.
the characters are wonderful. The world feels just exceptionally well crafted and fun to explore. Like it really feels like a solid, classic, fleshed out RPG that you want to sink your teeth into.
Yes.
So, yeah, so far.
exciting.
There will be... We'll see what happens in the next frame trap and how this thing's develops, but I'm excited to continue giving opinions on this.
Keep me in the loop about the difficulty, because it's... I'm just so weird. I know it's just such a big thing for me is like JRPG difficulty. Getting that sweet spot seems like such a tall order and a hard task. Like you play Ni no Kuni 2 and it's just so easy. But then Octopath has like this really intense, like high level grind to it.
Right.
It's just like getting that perfect spot is big for me with JRPGs. Games that I'm gonna be with for a long time,
Yeah.
Because it all like folds back in on itself. Dragon Quest VIII, I love the difficulty so much because it's like, well, now money matters even more because every piece of gear you get is gonna help you, and it's just it all kind of comes back onto that.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Yeah. To me, it's just about the pushback where it's like, okay, if you built up this boss or this character, or I went through this huge dungeon, you want the boss to be an appropriate challenge for whatever they were building up to, whether that be mechanically or narratively or whatever. And even if I get through it on the first try, as long as it made me sweat a little bit, I still think that's a memorable experience.
Totally.
It's just when it's like, wow,
I want to be sweating.
I could have done anything and got through that.
Yes.
So where it feels a little bit of a problem. There is one last thing that I want to talk about that I actually think is very cool, and that's Pep.
Pep?
Yeah. So Pep is this system in Dragon Quest XI where it's not like the psyching up in Dragon Quest VIII where it's like, okay, I want this character to power themselves up. It's a state that they get put into, and it will just happen where it's like, oh, I'm being attacked a lot, or it'll just trigger, and your character is more capable. Their stats will get a boost in this state. And if you manage to finish the battle before the pep goes away, you can carry it into the next battle. Nice. And so it's something where you can kind of daisy chain it together where you're like, oh, I want to make these fights go quicker. I'm going to try to get through this fast so I can keep this pep.
Nice.
But you can also cash in on it in really exciting ways because you have these super moves. And these super pep moves, maybe only one character needs to be in this pepped up state, or you need multiple characters to be in this pepped up state, 2 or 3, and they can all cash in on this really powerful attack. But if they do that, you lose that pep, and so you lose those buffs. And so I actually think it's smart on multiple levels. I love that it's something that I can't just automatically trigger, that I kind of have to deal with it when it comes.
Yeah.
That kind of makes battles more interesting and exciting than they would be on their own. And just the natural question of, how do I want to use this? What moves do I want to do? Okay, this guy's pepped. Do I want to wait until this guy's also pepped so I can do their combined move, or do I just want to roll with it now? It's a good layer.
Nice.
It's not excessively complex. It's just
an extra thing to think about.
Yeah, and the super moves are extremely well animated and over the top, and boy, they sure do look like Saiyans when they go into that pep state.
Yeah.
Like, they lift up off the ground and go like, ah! It is basically Dragon Ball powering up. That is what it is.
Yes.
It's very fun.
That is good.
Damiani, I want to rope you into the conversation. I want to talk about something that you care about, and that is Valkyria Chronicles 4.
Oh, yeah.
So you played the Japanese demo, and in fact, you gave your impressions on Frame Trap, and I've played through the English demo that just recently came out. I did not do the... there's a demo exclusive mission. The bonus mission. I haven't done that yet. I need to go back and do that. Kyle also did it, and he said it was really good. But I walked away from that Valkyria Chronicles 4 demo, which is a phenomenal demo. First of all,
that's what
that just needs to be said.
Yeah.
If you're at all curious about Valkyria Chronicles 4, I feel like this, from like a content perspective, what this demo gives you is incredible. It gives you a really good sense of the story. You're basically playing through like the first 2 chapters of the game. You can carry your progress over. You get something just for beating the demo that you will get in the main game. I don't know exactly what it is, but they'll give you something. And you get a demo exclusive mission for beating it, which you can't get in the main game.
So
so it just feels like it's kind of attacking on all fronts. And this demo will last you a while. It's not like, oh, I'm done in 20 minutes. You'll be playing it for a good chunk of time. And just purely on that level, it's really satisfying. But I think Valkyria Chronicles 4 seems like it's what we wanted it to be.
Yeah, I think... It's also what people I think were asking for is a game that harkened back more to the original Valkyria Chronicles, rather than the recent offshoot, Azure Revolution, and even the portable ones, Valkyria Chronicles 2 and 3. Those going back to like the larger scale maps, because it is on a console, not made for like the handheld, because the handheld versions just had like kind of the maps were more connected segments than one large sprawling environment that you had.
Right.
So it felt like you completed part A of a map. Now let's move on to part B. And
Peace Walker.
it just exactly, Huber. Just didn't nail the scale that I think really was a good hook for the original game. But mechanically, it's basically, there's nothing here so far in the demo that we've not seen before. It's all there, and as you said, the demo does a really good job of like getting you introduced to the game, and it gives you a lot of content to play through. But it just like, if you play this demo, it just goes through like all the tutorial stuff. You will be battle ready when Valkyria Chronicles 4 like drops. If you want to like carrying over your progress, like I'm sure they're gonna like turn it loose on like the mission after where you end on this one. And that it's a pretty smart idea. I think it's hooking. It's a good demo. I think it's hooking a lot of people who are playing it and getting them really like, it actually gets you ready for the main game, and by carrying over your progress, but just hammering in all the basics. It's just like, you play through these first 2 chapters, you will know how to play Valkyria Chronicles, and you're good to go, I feel.
Yeah. The thing that stood out to me the most, and I think why I've pestered you so much to play Valkyria Chronicles 1, is you think about this demo and you think about like the first 2 chapters of the game and teaching people how to play. I think there's this natural expectation of being like, well, okay, they're just going to have me defeat all enemies or just have me get to this point. Like, they're going to do, like, bog standard map objectives. But they really don't do that. They go out of their way to make the missions feel clever and exciting, where it's like, oh, I'm going through and it's really foggy. They've created decoy tanks. I need to run around and see if it's, like, a fake wooden tank or if it's a real tank. And then... oh man, we need to let these people know where the enemy is. We need to go to these clock towers and like shoot to change the numbers so they know to bomb like this specific location.
Whoa.
Or it's like, oh, we got to get through this very narrow bridge because there's like 2 mounted machine guns on either side. How are we going to do this? Well, we're going to use the new Grenadier class to take care of this and get through this choke point. And it just like... you shouldn't praise it too much because it is kind of walking you through this, teaching you, but it is creating these scenarios that at least like feel more creative than they could have been.
Yeah.
And that's really nice. And I already like the characters. I do think some of them are maybe a little bit too melodramatic, but like the Grenadier that you meet, you have this past relationship with her, and there's this tension that's brought up. She's like, you're a coward and you're leading these people, and you kind of want to dig into, hey, what is everything that happened here, and learn more about that. They do touch on it in the demo, but just kind of giving you a reason to care about your units is something that I love in like Fire Emblem, and I love it in Valkyria Chronicles. And I think why people who are fans of these things go on and on and on about them, it's not just because like, oh yeah, man, it was really fun killing those units. It was like, hey, it was really satisfying strategy, and I deeply cared about these people. Damiani, I want to get your opinion on the Grenadier, because having only played the demo, it seems broken.
Okay, explain.
So the Grenadier, basically you have this mini mortar that you're carrying around, and you're slower. You can't move as fast as other units. You can't move as far as other units. But when you plant this thing down, you just have such a huge range, and you can hit different people at different elevations, and the blast is so powerful where I'm like, how is this not going to be essential for most maps?
I mean, I think that's true, but I think the level that you're introduced to that class, essentially, the narrow core, the narrow bridge with the turrets set up on each thing, I think it's a good level to teach. It also teaches you that, like as you said, they are slow, so you got to know their limits. I think while their range and their destructive power is really good, they also have, you didn't get to play the bonus stage, the snow level, but they strategically, because enemies have those as well. That stage actually has them firing at you, but when you set up your character to in a certain spot, they will do return fire during enemies' turns. When they're moving, they will actually actively fire at them there. You can do it on the mission you're on now, but like it's harder.
They'll specifically target your Grenadiers? Like their Grenadiers will target your Grenadiers.
They target anyone who's moving. So you know how the game works. Like you move, like scouts shoot you, shock troopers shoot you. So Grenadiers will launch stuff at you, and like you can get knocked back. You can get like a dazed effect where like, it's like, oh, it's ringing your ears and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. That is, so they're very useful in that. Like they're very useful at, like, I think crowd control, I think, and they're an alternative to the tank, essentially, in like barging through and clearing a path, because the tank, you got to use a lot of like your AP to move it and stuff, and it's very generous in the demo. They only make it use one token. I have a feeling it's not going to be one CP point, because in the old ones, it's like at least 2 points for using your tank. Maybe that's changed. But I think the Grenadiers are a nice alternative to that, but they are so slow moving. They are so vulnerable when setting up. And the trick is, if you don't hit the button to start firing, when you're done setting up, you're still in the real-time mode. And there's been, like, the first time I tried it, I was like, oh, I'm going to take out one of the further turrets on the level, the bridge level.
Yeah.
And it started to fire me, like, oh, okay, I'm setting up, and I forgot to hit like the shoot button fast enough, and I was just sitting here taking damage. I was like, oh crap, I forgot about that. Like, one, the game teaching you, they're very exposed and vulnerable.
Gotcha.
Like, you've got to be very strategic with them. I feel I have not seen a level that has pushed it very hard yet, where you need to really think that deeply about it. But these are only like the second chapter into the game, and the bonus one more specifically, because you got to clear. It's a very densely packed map of enemies, and you really got to clear paths by using the tank and using the Grenadier to like push the enemies back, essentially, and keep them at bay, because they have like just like a lot of like firepower, and they also have their own Grenadiers and tanks that will just like wail on you as you're trying to run in too.
So there are more than enough disadvantages.
So here's the thing. This is the point I want to make, because I saw this at E3, because I do want to bring this up. In the demo, Scout is still OP as hell.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of all the shenanigans are still back. The AI is still not the greatest. Like, you got to get really close to an enemy before they will turn around if you're behind them. Like, oh, I kind of heard you. I'll turn to, like, you can cheese between walls that aren't necessarily cover, but they will serve as cover because they break line of sight. All that stuff's in there. I think people actually kind of like that to a degree, but I also think people are looking for, all right, there needs to be stuff that pushes back against that cheese. In E3, I think you both were there. I was pushing the Scout hard, and I pushed it apart where it just had like an onslaught of enemies. Like they like, we knew you were gonna push with us. I was out here, and it was like, you did. And it was like, oh, but that was my main character. So that's just game over right there. Try again. I have faith from seeing what I saw at E3 that they're aware. The developers are aware that people know about Scout cheese and like all that stuff. I'm hoping that will be something in the final version of the game, that they push back on those tactics. We got creative with this map. Yeah. Scouts are at a disadvantage in that. So beyond that, the demo doesn't illustrate that too well. The snow map, I think you gotta be a little bit more creative to take it full advantage of the scout like that, because the grenadier is firing. You get two of them firing at you along with crossfire. You can't just like run through there. Even like trying to sneak along cover and stuff, you got to be just a tiny bit more strategic, especially if you're going for like the best rankings to get more of the currency to buy your upgrade parts and to train your classes to level them up and stuff. So yeah, I felt good about the demo in that regard, but it's still, I won't deny, there's still Scout, Op, Cheese still present.
I think part of the reason I didn't play the bonus mission was, A, when I was playing the demo, it was pretty late, and 2, after getting through the story part of the demo, it was like, this impressed me enough that I don't really need to see more. Like, it's cool that this bonus mission is there, but like, I'm convinced. Like, just bring on the full course. But based on what you're saying, I would be curious to see how enemy grenadiers affect you, and so like I kind of just want to go back and test that, because it seems like my opinion of it does not match up with how they're actually
I don't think that level, it won't blow you away, but I think it'll help better illustrate where they can go with that concept.
And that's what I need to see.
But that second chapter though, like that was more than enough. You don't need that bonus mission. Like the fact that they threw in there is like, wow, that's awesome.
It was really
impressive. Everything you described about the second mission that we like already talked about was just like a perfect example of concepts. Like shooting the towers, trying to spot fake tanks, the mist stuff, and that's only chapter 2, where they might go. I see the concerns that, it's just Valkyria 1 again. Yeah, we all asked for that, but is it going to do enough to really distinguish itself, or is it just going to stick to that, be more of the same, and then maybe down the line, if this does well enough, we'll get bolder attempts to do new things. But I don't fully subscribe to that. Like that's all they're trying to do just yet, because we haven't seen the whole game yet. I think there will be surprises there, or at least I feel good about that.
Yeah. I was very impressed with the demo. Like I said, I'm ready. I'm just ready to play more. Give it to me. We're getting everything. We're getting everything.
Yeah. Everything.
We're getting these cool games like Dead Cells that are just barging in and being like, pay attention to me. We're getting games that we've been waiting for forever that are awesome, like Dragon Quest XI and Valkyria Chronicles 4.
All of it.
It's all the good stuff. But we're going to take a break. We're going to play a little game.
Nice.
Because we said something that really piqued the demon's interest. And they usually, do very demonic things. They're very into marketing, or somebody will say something that upsets them, but they actually want to advocate for something that they believe is good. Somebody brought up Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. And this is just the demon's opinion that game is underrated. Don't write it off.
Don't write it off.
Give it a look.
Don't write it off.
They like that game.
Yeah.
So that's just the message that they wanted me to convey. If you're not familiar with this segment, we spend a long time talking about the games that we've been playing. That it's kind of just a nice way for us to freshen ourselves up, have a little bit of fun, and talk about our sponsors. The game that we're playing today, we've done a lot of real or fake, and so I've tried to get away from that, but I wanted it to be snappy. So we're gonna do dates. We're gonna do dates, and I was just going to do dates for different Warcraft things, but then I was like, that would give Michael Huber an intense advantage. So we're doing dates for Warcraft and Final Fantasy things.
What's the sin, Ben?
Huh?
What's the sin? Bad dates.
I know that.
Bad dates.
It's a movie.
Harrison Ford.
I don't know.
Indiana Jones.
Which one?
Raiders.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't know. I'm bad with movie quotes.
Yeah, so Sala, his pet monkey, eats a spy, sneaks in and poisons the dates, and Indiana Jones hustles up, and he's about to eat it, like catch it, and Sala grabs it, and he's like, what? And they look at the monkey, and the monkey ate one earlier, and it's dead now, and he goes, bad dates.
I can't remember the last time I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Dude, it's time for a rewatch.
It's been like a very long time. I was going to say like 10 years, but it might be even longer. It's been a long time since I've watched Indiana Jones.
Rewatch.
It's been a very long time.
In 2018.
That was like a dad. Indiana Jones was like a dad movie with me, where like my dad loved it, and so I loved it, and we just got hyped up on Indiana Jones. Yes. That's the best. Yeah. That's the best stuff. Yes. Anyway, date. So I'm gonna say the way it's gonna work is I'm gonna say a Warcraft or Final Fantasy game, and both of you are gonna get to answer. You're both gonna give me a date, and the one that is closer will get the point. If you both get it, you both get a point.
Okay.
But before we go on, let's talk about our wonderful sponsors. First sponsor out the gate, like a bat out of hell, Greg, TheDarkKnight Kettering. Thank you, Greg. After him, we've got Dale's son. Thank you, Dale's son. Next, we have Jesse Vitelli, who you can find on Twitch at Justifer and on Twitter at Jesse Vitelli. Thank you, Jesse. Next, we have a game. Crystal Hunters from Zoteg. It's a puzzle game inspired by classics like The Adventures of Lolo and Chip's Challenge. Take on 45 levels of mind-bending puzzles as you go on a journey to collect the crystals scattered around the land. Play as Thomas or Amelia, guided by Grandpa Buckley, and go get those crystals. There are laser puzzles. Zoteg loves laser puzzles. Next, you know him. You love him. JoJo's Dent Co. Following JoJo's Dent Co., we have Jake Musser, who has a very nice message. Hey, allies, I just wanted to reach out and do what I can to support an outstanding group of hardworking individuals who are putting out some of the best content on the planet. Keep up the great work, everyone. Love and respect, Jake.
Love and respect.
It's gotten to the point where it's like, hearing praise is difficult. Like, it's hard. It's easier for me to accept intense criticism than praise.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just me, but yeah. Next, we have Ohyescoolgreat. And we have our mega sponsor. For the mega sponsor, I would like us all to say this word at the exact same time. I tested this with Brandon and Bloodworth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count down from 3. I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, and then we all say it together. Are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it Terminator 2, like a 3, 2, 1, boom?
That one.
Okay.
3, 2, 1,
blue.
That was just about perfect, I think. Are we ready for our little game?
Let's do it.
All right, first game. The first Warcraft Orcs and Humans. Damiani, when did that come out?
Year, like a specific
just year. Don't have to do month and day, just year.
Okay, 1997.
Okay, Michael Huber.
I'm going to say 90. Go with my gut. 96.
Huber was closer. It was actually 1994.
Oh, wow.
Next, we have the SNES release of Final Fantasy IV, originally known as Final Fantasy II in North America.
Should I
go first this
which
time?
region?
Yeah, we'll have Huber go first.
Okay.
North America. These are all North America.
1992.
Okay. Damiani.
Copyright says 1991-92. So I'm going with 92 as well. I think it was Japan 91.
Based on Wikipedia, it was 1991.
No.
Okay.
Unless I misread that, even in North America, it was 1991. So, but you both guessed the same thing. And you were both extremely close. I'm gonna give you both a point.
All right.
I'm gonna give you both a point.
Excellent.
Huber's ahead by 1. All right, we're doing Damiani. When did the Mists of Pandaria expansion come out in North America? What year?
2012.
Huber.
2013.
Damiani steals it. It was 2012.
Boom.
Well done. Boom. How about Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles on GameCube? Michael Huber. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles on GameCube.
2001.
Okay.
Was GameCube even out, dude?
Yeah, it came out in November 2001, but that's too early.
Yeah, damn it.
And 2003?
Damiani was closer. 2004.
Okay.
Same year World of Warcraft came out. Number 5, Warcraft 3, Reign of Chaos.
Right.
So basically vanilla Warcraft 3. Michael Damiani.
1999.
Mike Huber.
Warcraft 3.
Warcraft 3 Reign of Chaos.
I'm going to say 2000.
My favorite Blizzard game.
2000.
You're a little bit closer. 2002.
Wow,
okay.
that late.
We got it all tied up. So we're on to our last one.
Okay.
Huber, when did Final Fantasy Tactics come out in North America on PS1?
North America. PS1 version.
PS1.
1998.
Okay. Damiani.
The greatest year of all time for video games.
97?
Huber gets it.
98.
The show. 98, the greatest year.
98.
Crushes it.
Oh, yeah, 7 was 97.
With these Counter Frame Trade games, I'm not always sure which ones are good, which ones are bad. You let me know if you liked the dates. I want to make them quick. That's a big thing. But nice job winning that, Huber. Racking your brain trying to come up with those dates. You get to break us out of the frame trap. You can use a gesture, an expression, something that you think is powerful enough to get us out of this demonic realm. That was amazing.
Wow.
First of all, and second of all, was that your Sagat laugh?
That was my All Might laugh.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay. I thought you were definitely channeling some Sagat there. Okay. Cool.
Good one. Good one.
Your All Might laugh. You made All Might sound evil.
Dude, when he's like climbing over with like
Yeah.
the bell, he's like, ah!
Yeah. That's great. That's great.
I've actually seen the first episode of My Hero Academia.
Yes. I laugh.
Did
dude.
you watch it during Frame Trap? Like right
no,
now?
I watched it during the live premiere at Funimation. When it was debuted there.
Nice.
The dub
Nice.
of it, yeah.
Nice. I like My Hero Academia so much that it would be one where I would just be willing to watch all of it subbed and then dubbed.
Yeah. And I get
Every
hearing
year.
good things, yeah, about
Yeah.
the dub.
Yeah. Huber, I'm going to throw it over to you because we're going to talk about a game that I think has been difficult for you in the sense where you want to like it but have to grapple with a lot of problems. I've actually played a few hours of it myself, so I can hop in too, and that is We Happy Few.
Dude, you and Brad, huh?
Yeah.
I like
I just
it. I didn't expect anyone to play it at all.
It was one of those games that really grabbed me. I wanted to see what it was all about.
Cool.
And has surprised me in all of the ways.
Yeah.
Not all good, not all bad.
Yeah.
Just kind of all over the place. And I think for those of you, for people who aren't familiar, what is We Happy Few, and how does that change over time?
So, We Happy Few is a first-person survival / immersive sim / roguelite / adventure stealth combat game.
Okay.
It's got it all. Genres are silly nowadays. It's got it all.
What is the story of We Happy Few?
So We Happy Few, it's an alternate past. It's alternate 1964. The Second German Empire invades. There's this fictional town of Wellington Wells. That's where it goes down. No spoilers whatsoever. Something goes down, and now the entire population pretty much is under taking a drug called joy. So it's dystopian, and they're living in, perfect ignorance of everything, and they're just popping their joy.
So a lot of people tuned into We Happy Few because of how impressive those E3 trailers were.
Yeah.
And kind of like the world that they sold seemed so interesting that people kind of wanted to uncover the mystery behind the joy and why everybody was going crazy and just kind of digging into it.
Yeah.
Is it worth digging into?
I like it. My review should be going up today.
Today, we're shooting this on a Wednesday.
Yeah, it's going up. Ian's editing it right now. Speed demon Ian.
He's very fast.
No, I like it, but it has a ton of problems, and it's a pretty long game. So I would be cautious to recommend it.
Yeah.
And it's a full price game now, you know.
Is it swimming?
I wanted it to be swimming's. The bugs really held it back. There's a lot of bugs. I hit a game-breaking bug that set me back like 45 minutes.
That's a lot.
Yeah, no, there's a fair amount of bugs. That stuff will get patched out. I know they already have had some patches. But there's like something there, you know? There's something
there is something
underneath. There's a diamond in the rough, and I can't praise the story enough, the voice acting enough, and that holds true through the whole game. So you're saying, you know, is it worth it to get invested in this? If you like the story out of the gate, if you're really hooked on it, then I would say yes, stick through, because it's 3 acts, it's 3 characters. Each character has like their own gimmick and you know, abilities. The problem is that those abilities don't really change the way you engage with the game. There's a lot of problems with the systems and the mechanics just in general. Like, stealth is really strong. Enemies are easily exploitable. If, you know, you get caught, you can just like run around a corner behind a trash can.
So far, there doesn't seem to be a lot to combat. Yeah. Like when I do get in a brawl, it just feels very sloppy and not in a good way.
Yeah, it's just like block a little bit, hit him a couple times. That's it. It's more tedious than anything. Yeah. You know, it's like you want to stealth through so you don't have to worry about combat and you kind of just get to it. I just really like the world. Yeah. You know, it has that immersive sim quality of RPing, zoning everything out, and just getting so dialed into this world. Yeah. It's worth exploring, you know, and it's really dark, but also really jolly. You know, people are on drugs.
Well, very twisted jolly.
Twisted jolly, yeah. It's not like oppressive, depressing all the time. Like, you're going to hate yourself for playing this.
It's pretty oppressive.
It is, but like the art style, there's the visual flair. It's not like Walking Dead depressing where everything is all like brown and grimy.
Right. It is visually very interesting. Yes, totally.
And there's comedy there.
Yeah.
So
a very dark humor.
Very dark humor.
It is. Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
It's an easy comparison to make, but I really do think there's value here. It most reminds me of BioShock from a world-building perspective, and what I mean by that is when you go into BioShock, especially like right when BioShock was coming out and the internet hadn't talked about BioShock to death, it was fascinating being in this really messed up place and just kind of slowly getting tiny pieces and building this thing up to figure out why it was so messed up. And that's what's happening to me with We Happy Few, where I'm finding letters or I'm talking to this crazy person and they're just giving me a little bit of detail and making this world seem like there's enough there that I want to go and poke around and put all these pieces together.
Totally.
I think it's a hard thing to do, and I commend them for doing that. And the voice acting, like you said, I think is very on point. There's a character that you meet who, let's just say, talks to somebody who isn't there, and I thought that whole scene was handled really, really well, and I felt unnerved with this clearly demented person who liked me.
Yeah.
And
standout characters for sure.
Yeah, just watching these people interact in this insane situation is really entertaining.
Like Uncle Jack is fascinating. He's the guy like always on the broadcasts and, you know, subliminal messages. It's a really good character. Like even when you're Arthur in the beginning, like
I've just played Arthur
for sure. Far, so. When you're Arthur and you like kill someone, he's just like I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, how did we get here? It's just like, whoa, I feel bad about murdering this person.
Yeah, and they do, very much unlike BioShock in a lot of ways, they do very much insert the character constantly, where he'll be going somewhere and he's like, oh, I remember this, or this makes me think of that thing. Yeah. And it's just, it's a nice way to kind of flesh things out.
Absolutely.
Damiani, were you sold by the We Happy Few trailers? I think you're a fan of BioShock.
Yeah, I like to play through BioShock 1 and Infinite. I touched 2, but didn't finish BioShock 2. Like, conceptually, the trailers look cool. It's just, the game kind of like lingered in development for so long.
Yeah.
And to me, that's usually a sign of a bit of trouble, or it could be indicative of other things. But usually to me, the first thing I jump to is a bit of trouble. So I kind of, I've been waiting to like hear impressions, like someone tell me if this is good or not that I trust, because I don't feel confident jumping in on my own until I've gotten some like recommendations that it's good. And it sounds like, it's
divisive.
It sounds like maybe like the combat and the ability part might have maybe in a sequel, if they get to do a sequel, or if they had more like. And if they patch it and address it down the road. But the adventure part of it, you're selling me on the adventure part of it.
Yeah. And that should be said for context. Like, We Happy Few started as something that it is different. You know, it evolved over time. People really liked that intro part. That used to be the only story in the game. It's been in early access for a while. It used to be just that story intro, and then it was just a survival game. So they went back, they retooled everything.
Wow. I definitely feel like you can sense that
weird transition.
That dual identity kind of clashing with itself a lot.
It does, right? Yeah. And like, so the stealth isn't very good. The combat isn't very good. The survival isn't very good. Right. Just straight up. None of the systems are very good. The world and the story are. Yeah. And that matters to me a lot in the video games I play. But what also held it back too, not only those systems aren't that great, but then the bugs as well. Right. And the city is procedurally generated. They're adding a sandbox mode down the line. The city is procedurally generated, but like one and done. In the beginning, it'll generate, and it's like, all right, here's your city, boom.
Okay.
But there are specific landmarks
that never
throughout. Like handcrafted. It's not the whole thing is procedurally generated. It's like, no, here's this building that are handcrafted. So, but you can. There's a lot to discover in that game, which is cool. You can be really sick and twisted also, or play it non-lethal. There's non-lethal weapons. I liked that non-lethal was noticeably weaker than lethal weapons, so it was a little harder to do. Obviously, you can exploit the hell out of that game. You just block a little bit. And the survival stuff really bugged me. Like, you have to manage your food and drink barely. Right. But if you don't, you just lose a little bit of stamina. Right. That's it. Which, like, doesn't even matter at all. So there's just so many of the systems just don't matter. You level up skills, doesn't matter. So, but you can do some pretty sick and twisted things. There's a skill you can unlock where you can smother people to death in their sleep. So there's a day and night cycle. At nighttime, people sleep and all the cops are out looking. So you can like break into someone's house at night and like smother them with a pillow. It's deeply disturbing. Like steal all their items.
I feel like that is a very Huber specific thing to bring up. Like if you were to ask somebody else to give,
it's the first thing I noticed.
You were asked somebody else to give We Happy Few impressions. That may not come up. Yeah. You may not get that little bit.
There's some axes in there. You can get an axe.
This is off topic, and I apologize to Huber, but Damiani, I'm just curious. BioShock Infinite after it came out, was a divisive game. A game that I enjoyed, but definitely saw a lot of the problems that people really didn't like. What did you think of BioShock Infinite?
It has been a while. Most of the criticism and divisiveness that I can recall, it was about the ending of the game with Comstock's True Origin.
It was a lot.
But the other part of it that I will concede is that I've always liked the original BioShock the most. Just because of the atmosphere. I like the setting of Rapture a little bit more. Nothing against like being in like the sky, like in like that theme that they were going for, a little bit more like colorful. The whole thing with like Elizabeth was a unique thing about having to like worry about her, but like I never really felt fearful for Elizabeth. I never really I don't think the connection between me and Elizabeth really resonated while playing through BioShock Infinite. It was just kind of like she's there. She's kind of like felt like a thing just to advance the game at points and occasionally introduce a plot point. And it felt like too many things were set piece battles, essentially. Like, here, we're going to fight in this room. It's a cool looking room. We're going to have a fight in here. Use your cool powers and stuff. And I don't know. Some of, like, the mystique just wasn't there. It was more about, like, the kind of just the like the wow factor of like, look how good this looks. Look at these environments.
They should have never shown those world tears.
Oh yeah, that was. I think that would have been a nice like twist to hold. Like that would have held way more weight if I didn't know about that stuff. The tears. The whole thing about like riding around the thing to go around was like okay. It wasn't like, oh, it's cool, fun for a little bit, but otherwise it wasn't the greatest. I think BioShock 1 for me was the best experience because I kind of liken it back to Arkham games. Like, I think Arkham City is great, but Arkham Asylum being a little bit more focused, I still really appreciate that and the atmosphere of that. Right. It was crafted to be a very unique experience, a very unique atmosphere with like a unified vision, and that's what BioShock 1 was to me, and none of the other ones, the sequels, came close to approaching that.
Yeah, well BioShock 1 definitely had its own little stories with specific characters. It definitely felt constantly focused on Andrew Ryan and Rapture, whereas BioShock Infinite, I felt like it was trying to swallow way too many stories all at once.
I agree with that 100%.
Which, I still really enjoyed BioShock Infinite. I'm glad I played it, but yeah, I agree. I think BioShock 1... I actually like BioShock 2 as well. My memories of BioShock 2 are
Big Daddy.
Fuzzy, but...
Oh, yeah. Drilling people, dude, well. So cool.
Yeah. Sorry for that tangent, but yeah, we happy for you. You have to put up with a lot, but
you gotta put up with a lot.
I feel like you said, you can't completely write it off.
If you like the visuals and you're looking for a dystopian story, check it out. A lot. The combat, stealth, skills. Yeah. Not very.
Not
good.
an unqualified recommendation.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the Mega Man X Legacy Collection, which I've been like kind of using as a reward for myself. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to do this thing, and then I'm going to play some Mega Man X. And I'm doing kind of what I did with the anniversary or the OG Mega Man collections, where I'm just like playing one and then going into another.
Nice.
And boy, I just fairly recently played through X2 and X3 for the very first time. I'd never played through those games before, and very interesting experience. And those games have more ideas than I was expecting out of sequels that came out on the same system, and I think have a few more ideas than like regular Mega Man sequels have, where like in X2, for example, you will have the X Hunters who will come down and they'll be like, okay, I'm in this stage. So if you come to this stage, you're going to have to fight this X Hunter who invaded it. And if you do it, you'll be able to get this special thing at the end. And in X3, they introduced the idea of chips, where it's like, okay, you can get the X armor. Well, you can get these different chips that will further enhance one of the benefits that you get from this pieces of armor. Or if you get everything else, you can get the gold chip, and you can get all of those benefits. I do think X3 is maybe a little bit overstuffed. Like, you can go and get different ride armors. Essentially, like, you can summon mechs that you can run around in for a little bit. Cool. And that's, like, very cool in theory. Right? That sounds awesome. Yeah. But you just don't need them that much. And so they feel like a thing that's a little bit tacked on. And there's just... You get all these different ride armors, but you just don't really need them outside of a few specific instances where it's like, okay, I'm trying to get everything. Yeah. They're just not as useful as I was expecting. But overall, like in a broad sense, I think the thing that is so satisfying about Mega Man X, especially the SNES ones, is when you're going through, like, things will tear you apart. You don't have that much health, and things will do a ton of damage. So to put in the effort to go get those sub-tanks, to go get the upgrades that buff up your life, to get that body armor that cuts the damage that you take in half, like, these are really dramatic upgrades, and some of them are well hidden enough, or you have to do acrobatic feats that it's really fun pulling them off, and then getting a reward that matches that effort is just so nice. It's such a great feeling of progression that is outside of what we normally see. It's not experience and leveling up. It is secrets throughout the world, and I think that's just really, really cool. And those games are challenging. Like, they're fun to get through because they're hard and they push back. But as a collection, and I think really the thing that I want to focus on, it's kind of unimpressive. Like, they could have done a lot more with this. It's just... So, for example, you can change the controls in the games. Yeah. Like, you can... In some of the games, like in X4, for example, you can just go into the menu and change it. But like in X3, you have to be on the main menu to change the controls. And like, okay, I want my dash to be on L1.
Yeah.
Okay. I close Mega Man X3. I go do something else. I come back to it. I open it back up. And I go into the game and I'm like, wait, I switched L1 to dash. What the hell? Every time you boot it up, if you want your own, and that just seems like the simplest thing in the world. Yeah. Just remember what I changed the controls to.
System data, save it.
It's not that difficult.
Wow.
And so you can, in the first, it was the Mega Man Legacy Collection? Is that what they called them?
Yeah.
Because there was the Anniversary Collection, which came out on PS2.
Yeah, Legacy Collection, for sure.
Legacy, okay. Yeah. Mega Man Legacy. And then in the first Mega Man Legacy Collection, which was the NES games, you could do save states, which is very nice.
Crazy,
if you just want to go through and not worry about it and not get frustrated.
Content tourist.
In the Legacy Collection 2, which was 7 through 10, you could do checkpoint saves.
Cool.
So when you got to like specific points, the game would save throughout the level, but you couldn't save at any time.
No, yeah.
In the Mega Man X Legacy Collection, you can only save, like in the SNES games, for instance, or in like X4, where there would be a password, or they would let you save anyway. And so it's weird.
That is weird that one collection has it and one doesn't.
Right. It ended up not bothering me that much. I kind of liked the challenge and the punish of like, man, if I mess up, I gotta do this again, or I really gotta think about my sub-tanks. It actually ended up being pretty satisfying, but I'm worried that it will turn off some people. There is Rookie Hunter mode, which you can turn on for every game, and you'll take less damage, but it feels like... Why not? Why change the save structure from these different collections? I could see it being a selling point for people getting into Mega Man.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, I want save states because I'm nervous or I'm not familiar with this type of game. Yeah. And so I don't know. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. A lot of this sort of thing doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, because a collection to me, and one of the main reasons I love remasters is getting these games into the hands of players that have never played them before. Mm-hmm. And I love options, give people like you that have grown up with the series the option to turn them off, play through it as intended, or if somebody's curious, wants to go through it, but it just doesn't have the skill for it, like that's not a problem. Use those saves and checkpoints. Yeah. So it is weird that they had it and now they don't.
Right. It's just the inconsistency is frustrating, and it feels like one of those things that could be done so easily. And again, you don't want to fall into the fallacy of being like, developers do it, it's so easy, because a lot of times it's more complicated than you think, but it is just weird when you've given us something and then you take it away, and I don't know. I think the reason that I'm frustrated, and the second point to this, is that these games are absolutely worth playing through today, whether you've played them before or you haven't. Like, I've just been focusing. I will get to the second part of the collection, X5 through X8. I will have opinions on that later on. But at least 1 through 4, like, these games are really incredible. And I know we get on this podcast, and I know that we say things are awesome all the time. And I know I've hyped up Mega Man, but specifically Mega Man X 1 through 4, like, do not miss these. I'm going through X4 right now, and just visually, the music, the stage design, the bosses, everything about it is spectacular. Like, this is a classic game that you should totally make the time to play. It is worth the price of admission. And, like, I understand that maybe these collections aren't as tight and as they could be, but the games are so strong that they kind of make up for that.
Totally.
There is definitely, and there's I should know the guy's name. He did like input delay tests, and there is definitely input delay in this collection that has felt a little bit weird.
Input delay.
But
input delay, dude. What?
Yeah, I don't want to.
Whoa!
It was so I was playing it on the Switch, and then I switched over to the PS4.
Yeah.
And this is just anecdotal evidence. This isn't hard science, but it definitely felt better on PS4 than it did on Switch. Oh. And maybe that's just my mind playing tricks on itself.
Okay.
But on my experience, I was playing on Switch and I switched over to PS4 and it felt a little bit better. But in both cases, it's not so intense that like I couldn't play it and get through it. Like, it was fine.
Okay. Okay.
So know that. Don't be too freaked out by that.
I'm freaked out.
Sure.
You freaked me out.
I feel like I shouldn't have even said that.
Input delay, dude.
I feel like I shouldn't have even said that. But yeah, I think specifically X 1 through 4 are really strong, and it's nice, I guess, that they split the collection up into 2 parts, so you don't have to buy the whole package if you just want X 1 through 4, which are very good. I could say that with absolute confidence.
Yeah.
You should check them out.
Totally.
Damiani, you've done something. I don't know if I've ever been more jealous of you. You had that Phantasy Star mouse pad. That was nice. But you've done the Monster Hunter World event in Final Fantasy 14.
Oh yeah.
And it seems awesome.
It's pretty cool. They did a lot of work for this.
I love these collaborations.
It's a great thing because while the requirements for it are that you have to be level 70 job, and you have to have beaten the Stormblood main story, so all the way through 4.0. You don't have to beat any of the patch content beyond that, and it is a item level 320 requirement, which is it's not as Brad would say, because Brad has had to deal with like the gating. The main gate in 14 is like gear to doing like post-game content, and if you have someone who can just make it for you, buy it for you, it's instantaneous. You could have like higher level gear than that right now, but if you want to do it like the legitimate way and get it takes a little bit of a grind to do it. But anyway, but it's never going away. This event is going to be there forever.
Whoa.
Apparently, just like the 14 stuff in Monster Hunter World is going to be there. They said it has no expiration date on it. It's just going to be there.
Excellent.
Which is cool. It means that you don't have to rush. You don't have to rush to get it. People are definitely still doing it. But what they've done is the story is that hunters from Monster Hunter World have showed up in your world, and they're talking about this like great hunt that they want.
It's funny because in Monster Hunter World, a Moogle shows up.
Yeah. And they basically are telling you about this, and they send you to go investigate because they think the monster Rathalos has appeared in Eorzea, but you need to confirm it. And then you go into the Azim Steppe, which is like the most Monster Hunter looking probably environment in Final Fantasy 14, just like giant open like plains area with like hilly rocks and stuff like that. And you meet the feline, your Palico, who's basically like, "Hi, you look like you can help me out with this." And then you encounter Rathalos, and then it's like, "All right, let's go fight Rathalos." And the first version is an 8-person fight, and they made the fight work as best as they could within 14 system to feel like a Monster Hunter fight. In that Rathalos does not follow the traditional rules, and that there is no aggro table. So there is no main tank. The tank does not tank the beast and hold it in a spot. It does what it wants to do. It has fixed mechanics, but you got to look for those visual indicators. But it could do them at any person at any time. So it could charge at one person, so run across the map and run over people. If you're in the way, it'll like shoot a fireball. If it targets you across the map and you're near that person, everyone will get hit with that effect. Some of them are more like it'll spin around and like slash its tail at people. And
Can you break parts off of it?
So while you cannot break parts off of it, there is a part where you can attack its tail and destroy its tail, and it'll do like 1/3 of its HP damage, to like a lot of damage to it, basically, which is really cool. And the first part is really nice because it's broken up basically into 2 parts. The first part, it's doing what I just said, but at one point, wildlife swarms in. They're like fed up with Rathalos. So like, whatever reason, like we hate you. They will start attacking Rathalos. But it's all these 14 mobs, like a coral, like some sheep, and like these random like animals, and they just go into a frenzy with Rathalos as well. So it gets really chaotic and stuff. And you got to like they'll attack Rathalos, but they also will do their own attacks as well that can also hit you. So it's like a risk reward thing. Like, do you leave them alive long enough because they keep doing damage to Rathalos, but you also get to deal with Rathalos still running around and doing stuff, and it's kind of cool. And then it culminates with a big bison just like ramming Rathalos, cool. And then someone has to mount Rathalos and tame it while button mashing basically, while you kill the buffalo in time, because you use its carcass to hide behind, because Rathalos gets enraged at that point and just breathes fire across the map, and anyone not behind that body will be insta-killed, or if you don't kill in time, it runs off and just like goes, peace out everyone, and Rathalos is like, you're all dead. After that, it's like a scorched earth environment, and Rathalos is like in a frenzy mode. Everything happens faster, he's more aggressive, and he will target people where he'll drop, let's say, like the fireballs will leave behind a puddle, like a lava puddle that you can't stand in, essentially. And in the normal mode, they're just like one at a time, so it's not too much to deal with. As you said, you break the tail, and he flies around, and you basically got to do enough damage to bring him down, essentially. And then you could like gang up in DPS on him. And the best part is, when you beat him, there's no traditional chest reward or anything like that. Mm-hmm. You have to carve. Yeah, you have to carve the scales from Rathalos, which you then can trade in for the rewards. Completing the story mode version of it, you get a Palico minion. You get a spit roast.
So is the Palico minion just like a standard? The standard Monster Hunter World Palico in the
regular... the feline that you've seen in the trailers for that. So it's just that one. You get an indoor and outdoor Spitfire roast. It doesn't play any music or anything, but it just that part's a little weird. But there's more. There's more. So and then you can get a red dyed version of the default like Monster Hunter World gear. I don't know what set it is. The Rathalos set. Sorry, sure. Male and female version, and you can buy music that you can play in your, like, there's a music player in the game that you can put in your house or your inn or whatever, and you can listen to the tracks. 2 of the Monster Hunter World tracks are available from that. That's the story version. If you do the EX version, there's one mechanic I forgot to explain, but I'm saving it for like EX version specifically. EX version, because they make a joke when you go into the 8-person fight. They're like, 8 fighters, isn't it usually 4 or whatever for Monster World? So the extreme version of this fight is only 4 people. So it's only 4 people, just like that. They institute, if there are 3 KOs, doesn't matter what players, if there are 3 KOs throughout the fight, you got to start over from the very beginning. And just like in the normal version, in the second half of the fight where Rathalos goes ballistic, his Scorch thing disables traditional Final Fantasy XIV healing mechanics. They will not work. There's one cheese exception, but in general, they will not work. So you cannot direct heal. You cannot use pots. You have to use a instance-specific action, which is the Monster Hunter potions, and you only get 10 of them.
Does it do like a potion animation?
Yes. It does the drinking thing, and you are locked out from doing anything else for a few seconds. So it's like Monster, so you can't like attack or anything. You just can run around and stuff like that.
Boy, they really went all out with this.
Yeah, they did.
Did you get the greatsword?
No, there's no weapons from this, but the EX version's rewards at different scales. You can get diable version of the Rathalos gear. You can get a, what is it called, a Poogie, the pig-looking thing minion. You can get that. And it can either drop from there is a chest reward that's very rare to get that will have these items in there just you can buy, or you got to trade in 50 of these scales. You only get 1 per clear. For 50 of those scales will earn you a Rathalos mount. And it plays the Monster Hunter World music as you fly around.
So how... You can just fly around a Rathalos?
Yeah, so it's not massive size, but it's a decent. It's like looks like a baby Rathalos, like a mini Rathalos.
Okay,
but it's not like full size. Like it's not like the size of the fight encounter. Rathalos.
Before you went into your explanation, I knew just on some level that they were trying to incorporate Monster Hunter stuff. But you getting a Rathalos mount?
Yes.
Holy shit! Like that. Like I have to do that. How do I not do that? Like I have to put Battle for Azeroth over here.
But this will be here forever.
Did you clear it on your first try? How hard is it?
So the story mode version is pretty easy.
Okay.
The only way you're gonna wipe is if you don't kill that buffalo in time, or no one knows what to do after it's dead and they don't hide behind it. Beyond that point, it's very hard to wipe on that. EX version, it took you get a 60 minutes for a lockout before you get to start completely again. Cleared it on like near the end of the second lockout. And it was mainly just getting used to the last phase tells because he's a little bit faster.
Yeah.
The best advice I can give you is don't be so far away. People tend to want to run away from Rathalos, and he charges really quickly across the map, and it can be a little frantic, and the camera is not the best in terms of facing him at all times. It's a circular environment with walls.
Yeah.
So I think it's done to do that specifically to try and make you either zoom in your camera and focus. Staying close to him is probably the best strategy, actually. Just trying to stay on his backside. Once we figured that out, it went much more smoothly. And actually, after that night, killing it was a joke. It's if people who know what to do, it shouldn't be that hard. It's not meant to be that difficult. But obviously, with pugs and stuff, it can get a little frustrating. Sure. But it was fun. I had a good time. It's definitely a different type of fight than you're used to in 14. So it was a nice change of pace.
That sounds so awesome. Yeah. How much have you seen of the Monster Hunter World event? I know you were checking out.
So I watched your stream. I watched you do Behemoth Part 1. And then it was Scare Away Behemoth.
Yeah.
But I've been hearing tales about the next one trying to actually kill him. Everyone's swearing now that they've seen me play the EX Rathalos fight, they're oh, the Behemoth fight in Monster Hunter World is definitely harder than what you have to do in Final Fantasy 14.
It's pretty tough.
I've done it multiple times now, and I do have the Dragoon armor and the lance, which I'm very excited about.
Yes.
Have you seen the gesture that you get?
There's I know you can do a Dragoon flip thing or
you can
whatever.
do a Dragoon jump, where you'll actually disappear from the screen, which is just awesome on its own.
Yeah. But you can use it as an actual tactic.
So you can use it as an actual tactic. So the Behemoth fight has this move where if you don't get behind the boulders, you'll die, but you can also use the jump gesture at just the right time to avoid damage completely.
That's
so much
cool.
style,
so
max style points.
What's the other emote then? That's the one
That's
that was it. Okay,
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
you got to do that
cool
as Dante.
And is this
You know what makes the fight so much easier that we should have been doing on our first attempt? You know when he's doing the cyclones?
Yeah.
If you flash pot him while he's doing that, you'll interrupt it and you won't have to deal with that.
Oh,
and
nice.
The fight's still hard, but it makes it much easier.
I heard they're adding a harder version of that fight in the future.
They are.
Oh, jeez.
And from that, you'll be able to get layered armor for the Dragoon armor, which means that you can wear other things but still look like a Dragoon.
Oh,
perfect.
Cool.
Perfect.
Very
sweet.
Cool.
Yeah. Very cool indeed. Damiani, I got to do it, man. Maybe this sounds crazy, but you did such a good job of hyping up Battle for Azeroth, but I feel like I'm even more excited for this little crossover event. It just sounds so cool.
Monster Hunter hype.
Yeah.
Monster Hunter and World of Warcraft coming soon.
But I get too much shit to play. That's the problem.
Too much.
I also want to keep doing Warframe at some point.
Literally, Ben, the best thing to do is if you just literally wait, probably if you can be patient, wait till the next expansion comes out.
Yeah.
You can boost
solo it.
You can boost to the proper level and have the right
gear. I do want
gear.
to experience the Stormblitz stuff though. I do.
Okay. Yeah. You can, basically it's there it'll be there forever and it will follow the normal rules. Even if you have a hard time farming it now, wait. It'll be nerfed content, whereas you can go in higher level, over geared and stuff. The unsync option, where you can do older content, raffle stomp through it. You will be able to do that. You'll be able to probably solo it at some point and just farm it and be faster.
Just really quickly, the last game that I want to talk about, I played it for a little bit this morning. It came out yesterday, recording this on Wednesday, is Death's Gambit. This 2D Souls-like, and I know everything gets compared to Dark Souls, but this
it's actually
really truly
it is this time.
It really warrants it. And what's interesting about it, there was also Salt and Sanctuary, another 2D Souls-like, but the things that separate Death's Gambit are pretty interesting. So you start with a mount, and that's kind of fun. There are definitely points where it's okay, no, the mount can't reach this. You have to dismount and climb up here or go through this space or whatever. But when you are riding on the mount, you can just kind of plow through enemies. So that's kind of nice and satisfying. And the way that it handles its health recovery mechanics, you get these plumes, and you can pop them kind of like you would an Estus or a blood vial. But you can also go to these statues, which are essentially bonfires, and be like, okay, I'll hold less of this healing item to do more damage. And so you can make that decision as well. So it's like, okay, I could hold 4, but I'm going to cash 2 of these in to do 120% damage.
Excellent.
Which is really interesting. And I have not died yet, but based on what I've read, when you die, you don't actually lose your souls or your experience that you use to cash in to level up. You lose one of your plumes to heal. And so you can just either go and get that back or spend experience to get that plume back.
Got it.
So that's pretty interesting.
So you can get to a point when you have no plumes.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to spend
I think you can... I wish I had died. I think it's like if you don't, because you can go to where you died to recover it, based on my understanding. And I hope I'm not wrong on this. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But I think if you die, you lose it and then have to pay to get it back.
Got it.
So like
economy.
Right. So like I died. If I make it back there successfully, I will get the plume back. If I don't, I'll have to spend experience to get it back.
Got it.
That's how I believe it works.
Got it.
Something different. Nice.
Yeah. And it plays well. There are some interesting things with it. So I picked an assassin using daggers. You get like special moves, and as you attack, you'll build up the thing that you need to do the special move. So kind of like a rogue in World of Warcraft. And that's really interesting in combat because it's like, okay, I will do like, a lot more damage if I can cash in on a special move, but that means I have to play more aggressively. I can't hit and run. I can't sword and board it. And so that's really neat. And I got a thing where it's like, if you land the finish of your combo, you'll get health back. And so It's like, wait, okay, if I'm going to attack, I might as well do the whole thing. So that's really interesting. There is some weirdness with it. So you get a bow, and you can aim in like any direction with the bow, and it just feels a little loose. Yeah. It doesn't look the best. There was a moment where I was like, really, guys? So you know how in every Souls, there's a dragon that breathes fire that you have to go through?
Yeah.
There's like this giant thing that breathes fire that you have to time with. I was like, okay, that's as on the nose as you can get. The fire, like the sprite work is really gorgeous for the most part, but the fire just felt out of place and looked a little bit weird and was kind of clashing with the rest of the style that was going on. But overall, I think even the little that I've put into it since it's come out, I think if you enjoy that style of game, dig into it. I definitely am feeling this. Salt and Sanctuary didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
And I can't really articulate why.
I never played Salt and Sanctuary because you, Ian, and Brad, the three wise men, all of you were like, don't. Just don't. It's okay. Everyone, you all were like, yeah, it's okay. So I was like, oh, whatever. Gambit, I pre-ordered immediately. I was like, I'm just going to dive into this one because I didn't do Salt and Sanctuary. I didn't get a chance to play it last night.
There was just something about the feeling. It's been so long since I played Salt and Sanctuary, but there was just something about the feel of it that I was like, I'm good. And just dropped it and felt okay about it. Whereas Gambit, I feel more incentive to keep playing and going through it. Like, I'm having a good time.
Are you more invested in Gambit or Chasm?
Yeah, so I just started Chasm as well.
Love Chasm.
Chasm is not what I was expecting. I guess we're talking about Chasm as well. Let me write down a timestamp.
Might as well.
The thing about Chasm versus Death's Gambit, they're very, very different games. What I wasn't expecting with Chasm is there's a lot more world building. Like, you start that game and you kind of run around and talk to people and figure out what's going on. And then when you get out into the mine that you're going through at the beginning, you're reading notes, and it was just a lot more lore than I predicted for this Metroidvania game. And I don't know why. I think just...
There's a lot. It's a lot in the beginning.
It's a lot. But I like it. So far, it's been pretty easy.
Yeah.
A lot of the enemies die in like 1 or 2 hits, and you have a lot of space to navigate, so it's not hard hitting them. But it feels good. I like the way it looks. I like the idea of going around and helping people, and then those people that you help in turn aiding you on the quest. I think that's really, really good. But I think just from, like, Death's Gambit is hard out the gate, and for me, that's a trick that always works. Totally. I like being pushed immediately.
Yeah. I just think it's such a great time right now with Chasm, Death's Gambit, Dead Cells, and Hollow Knight. It's just all 4 of those games are similar, but they all are doing their own thing.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a good time right now if you like this style of game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they all do something differently.
Huber, do you know what you've done? You've actually broached the topic of the HOTTAKE. And this applies to Huber, who's playing some Metroidvanias, to myself, who's playing some Metroidvanias, and to Damiani, who just recently binged Hollow Knight and loved it. My question is, you said this was a great time for independently developed Metroidvanias, games that are clearly drawing from very specific influences like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Super Metroid, Dark Souls. My question to you, ignoring the quality of those games, do you think that maybe we're being flooded by too many of the same things? And perhaps a better question, do you think we only pay special attention to these indie games when they're drawing from things that we already love? Because things like Hollow Knight eventually got a lot of attention, and I don't know if it would have gotten as much attention if... I mean, it's an incredible game, don't get me wrong. This is not a knock on Hollow Knight's quality, but I just don't know if games that are kind of their own thing that aren't maybe as heavily inspired get the same love. I feel like there's a lot of retro pandering that's going on, and maybe not pandering, but just from a media perspective, I feel like we're more receptive to things that play to what we already love. I'm guilty of that too, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a little bummed that Chasm is already kind of out of the spotlight. I feel like it had a day or two. You know, it kind of came out.
I'm gonna keep playing it.
Me too, for sure. But maybe it is a little too much right now. Like Dead Cells came out and is like universally praised, and then Chasm kind of came out and was like lukewarm response. But now Death's Gambit's out, and it's like, well, with all these options, like which one should I...
You've got Guacamelee 2 coming out in a very short amount of time, August 21st.
And Hollow Knight's getting legendary reviews, but it's really
long. It has more
game.
stuff coming into it.
Yeah, so it is a bit overwhelming. At the same time, I feel like these are the types of games, and this is a genre where you can juggle a lot of them, and I refuse to let them slip through the cracks. Whereas it's not a Battle for Azeroth and a 14 situation where you're like, well, I got to make a hard call here. It's like I feel like all of these games can coexist, even though they all kind of came out at the exact same time.
Well, I see what you're saying, where all these games can coexist, but like Hollow Knight is not a short game.
No, Hollow Knight's kind of the one that's really long.
Right. Damiani, do you think there's an issue with the amount and the similarities between them?
I mean, I think the problem is what he would have said. Just being in such close proximity to each other with the releases isn't doing them any favors. I mean, as you said, they're all, in your opinions, are very good games, very strong games. But and I also would argue like there haven't been that many before now. Like Metroidvanias aren't too terribly common. They happen every now and then, but they're not like, I never thought of it as an oversaturated genre, honestly. I felt like just enough that, especially like in like the indie space in the last few years, there's been just like enough, but like now it seems like there is a lot coming out in a short period of time. Yes, Hollow Knight, despite being thrown in the mix here, did come out over a year ago on PC, so to be like, you want to be like technical, you know, it should have gotten its dues back then. I mean, it did get some of its dues then, but not enough probably. It's for the obvious reason of it now coming out on Switch, which is a popular system. It's getting like a second win, probably it's surge in popularity. And you just have all these games in like such close proximity, not just to each other, but all these other releases coming out. And while I agree, I think there is enough time to juggle, like trying each one out. I do have serious concerns about the completion of all these games, when people will see them through. And is that, And then the question becomes, is that enough? Is it enough for someone to play just a few hours of all these really great games, say, hey, I can acknowledge them? Or do you feel
saying from a consumer's perspective or from a media perspective?
Almost like both. Like honestly, like do you feel like you feel informed enough by playing, let's say, like 4 to 5 hours max of any of these games or less, like no more than that? Yeah.
But when I'm bringing these things, like it's because like Death's Gambit just came out.
Yeah.
And so it's like there hasn't been time.
Yeah.
To play through it all.
That definitely makes sense. Yeah. Okay. I missed on that. I just think, yeah, like I don't know. Like I feel like it's sometimes might be a disservice not to finish a game when it's so good, and you're having such a great experience, and then but someone like we kind of talked about earlier about like being in the moment. There is like windows where your friends are playing something,
right.
You feel like it's the moment to get on in it. That doesn't have to be the rule. Like, please understand, anyone listening, like, it is a great time to get into a game at any point if it's a great game. Like, it does not have to be when it's like the relevant and like the hot topic. But I do see people being more encouraged to jump in at that point. And what's bouncing around so much between these, because there's so many new ones coming out back to back to back to back here.
Right.
I feel like that might encourage people to jump between. Delta Souls, great. I played it a little bit, like a few hours. Great game. Okay. I'm gonna move on to like Hollow Knight. Like it's been out for a while, but it's on Switch. I'm gonna try that now. Okay, cool. Well, now I'm gonna try Death's Gambit. Yeah, this is really good too, but I haven't finished it. All right. Oh, because like Guacamelee 2 is coming out. Okay, I'm gonna play that too. It's like,
right.
And then, as I said, juggling any other game, like, if it's other genre games coming out that you're interested in, I feel like. That's my question I'm asking. Do you feel like, is that a good thing, or do you wish that these were spaced out a little bit more and people got to they got more moment in the spotlight, people got to finish them, and I'm worried there's not going to be a lot of critical discussion about these individual games, like in a post-mortem type, like a reflecting back, because they're so jumbled together that it's just going to be a Metroidvania like reflection of this like kind of like this like surge of them.
Are you asking that to me, like personally, like me as Ben Moore, or are you asking like in a general sense, what do you think the effect is on people?
I'm actually asking both of you personally, but also asking this one specifically is like games like media. Like how do we like wrestle with this as well? And do you think it's being like fair? Like how do you feel?
Well, for me personally, it's a little bit weird because like with Death's Gambit, it was okay, I have some time before Frame Trap, this just came out. I want to see what it's about, to talk about it because it's relevant right now. And I think from a coverage perspective, that makes sense. And I think as long as you're clear about that, where it's like, hey, this is what I played, I think it's okay to give people some early impressions. I don't think that's nearly as valuable as having finished it. But I think with us, we've found ourselves time and again being like, okay, we can't have everything played through by the time it comes out, period. Like, that's just not going to happen. So from a coverage perspective, I think that's a little bit annoying. But I think what is also a part of it is when you have all of these things that are kind of similar, they're different. I think Chasm is different from a Dead Cells, which is different from a Death's Gambit. But they're similar enough that I think people are going to compare them in some ways, that you run into this problem where, okay, they're good, but this one is the best, where you just kind of raise the bar for it needs to be even more incredible to kind of pierce through its competition, essentially. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing with Hollow Knight, where in my opinion, what I wasn't going to bring Chasm because I have not played enough of it, but the little that I've played of like Death's Gambit or like, and Dead Cells is fantastic, but like to me, Hollow Knight was just incredible. Like that was so good. And so if somebody came to me and they were like, hey, out of these, what would you pick? And I was like, well, based on my experience, I would definitely pick Hollow Knight. I think that's the problem that you're running into. And I think the same thing happens with like Crowded Novembers, where it's like, hey, I can only get one thing. Well, when you have 10 of them, it has to be the absolute best. But I think that's frustrating too.
It's so frustrating.
I don't think it's just by nature of it being the best, there can only be one.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And I do think we should try to acknowledge things that are maybe not the best, but are pretty good and worth their attention. And it's very frustrating for me. I feel a lot of guilt over that. I want to play everything. I want to highlight everything. That's like the whole point of Don't Skip. But it's hard. We live in a time where it's an embarrassment of riches, and I think a lot falls through the cracks that doesn't deserve to, for sure.
Yeah, and I guess just where I started from, it's like, yeah, Hollow Knight is long, but like Chasm and the bit I've played of Chasm and obviously Dead Cells is they're still manageable in short doses, which I appreciate. And it's like the level of investment makes it easier to juggle these games for me. Whereas like a Chasm and Dead Cells, I can keep coming back to, play a little bit, chip away. Whereas something else like a MMO or like a Dragon Quest, these are games that you have to dive so deep into and play for longer periods of time.
Right.
Whereas like the nature of these games, and I'm sure even Gambit is nice in doses, and I like that.
Yeah, it's just, I completely agree with you. And to kind of go back to your question, Damiani, I think they're the games that I feel when I'm not responsible for covering them, and especially when I know I'm not going to be talking about them on Frame Trap, the ones that I feel like I can kind of chip at over a long period of time are the ones where I don't care about the narrative, or the narrative isn't emphasized. And with a lot of these types of Metroidvania games, that tends to be the case, where it's like, okay, I don't have to worry about anything being spoiled. I don't have to, worry about remembering what's going on. It's just kind of about the mechanics and getting through the obstacles that it presents. The problem is, I mentioned that like I'm doing that with the Mega Man X Legacy Collection, and that's super satisfying. You kind of get to a point where it's like, I can only chip away at so many things. When I get some free time, I can't fill up that free time with all of those things at once. And I think that becomes a problem.
I can't wait for this conversation in November when someone is going to be like, well, sure would like to play Red Dead Redemption 2, but...
Right. But I guess with these smaller games, the real point of the question is, do you think this is a problem that needs to be solved? Is there too much? Is it too similar? Are we not giving them enough attention?
I think it's a problem, and I don't think it can be solved because there are so many people making games. It's just the way it is. Like, you're not going to stop someone from making a game they want to make.
Right.
It's just the nature of the video game industry right now. It is... it's pretty ironic that all these games did come out in close proximity. You said Hollow Knight came out a year, but again, the Switch release kind of just happened. And Dead Cells and Death's Gambit and Chasm had been worked on for years and years and years. Early access for Dead Cells, I know, but the fact that they all came out within, an earshot of each other is crazy. It's pretty crazy that happened. You look at it, it's just funny, you look at how long a year is, and you go through these gaps when games don't come out, and then they just all hit at the same time, year after year. It's like, why couldn't this have come out just like a month over here, and this one like maybe 3 weeks earlier?
Well, and it's compounded by the fact that back in the day, right, when you would play through a game, that was the end of your commitment to it. It's like, okay, I finished it. Maybe you could argue that it's like, okay, well, I want to go in 100% and I want to get all the secrets. But whatever came on that disc or in that cartridge was the beginning and end of it. And it's like Monster Hunter World, like we do almost weekly streams of it, and I still feel behind because they're just updating it all the time.
Yeah.
And so you get these games, and we talk about live games all the time in HOTTAKE, but it's just... I don't know. I think all you can do, and as much as I feel guilty about it and as much as I want to do better about it, I think at the end of the day, all you can do is love games and try to tackle it as best you can. And something that seems like a priority right now, you might get another game that you might fall even more in love with, and you just kind of, at some point, I think, have to follow your heart.
Gotta follow your heart. Play what you want to play. Don't let it stress you out. don't let it stress you out.
I think that only works from a player perspective. I don't think that's a good excuse as people who cover games. I think we should be trying to do better. But from a player perspective, I think you do have to kind of let go of some guilt and let yourself enjoy. Like, you seeing a bunch of things and getting through everything shouldn't come at the cost of why you do this in the first place, which is to enjoy video games. I think. So, I don't know.
Yeah. My wife misses me these last couple of weeks. You know?
Yeah.
There's been a lot, and there's going to be a lot in the next couple months. It's absolutely wild. It's crazy. Do you guys think theoretically speaking, pure theory, would like to get your opinion. Do you think we will reach a point where this cannot be sustained and we go to like some dark time where we only get a few games a year? Do you think that time is coming?
No.
Do you think it's just going to be more and more and more and more until it's like a video game every week?
I do think what's going to happen is we are at a point where there's so much of like generally high quality. I don't think that's going to last because it can't. You're going to get more years where you're like, okay, I'm not playing as much because there isn't either as much that catches my interest or it's just not as good as it was, in 2017, 2018. Mm-hmm. I do think you will reach a point where quality will dip. And that usually happens at the start of new consoles.
Yeah.
So, not always, but sometimes it happens.
Cool.
So, yeah. Sorry, were you going to say something, Damiani?
The only thing I can think of analogy-wise, Hubert, like you're asking, like, can it sustain besides... Ben addressed whether or not good games could be sustained like that and give his opinion. But just in general, I think you see it in television, Huber. Mm-hmm. There's just way too much television you can ever watch. You can if you started when you were born, you're not going to be able to watch every television show ever made. Mm-hmm. And that's just reality. And I think as game industry gets older and we have more games, it's going to become the reality. There will be too many even good games that you cannot play all of them in your lifetime. Mm-hmm. Like, they'll be like 50 years from now, it's like, there's no way a human being can play all like the great games that were ever released. And it's like, that's just a sad fact. It's just you're just gonna have to like go, as you said, to your advice, like go with your like your personal choices, preference, whatever. Yeah, you decide. We have all these great games, as you said, they're not all exactly alike. But even just playing one of these right now, I think is like a good enough like place to be. Mm-hmm. If you want to be like understand like why are some people so excited about Metroidvania type games right now? Oh, I played one of these. Okay, it was a really good game. If these other games are as good as this or close, I get it. I think that's all you're asking for is people just like step in at some point. Doesn't have to try all of them, play one of them, and like come to understand whether you agree or disagree, understand why people like speak so highly of this game. Like, oh, I see it, but like I don't like that. But like, it's just part of like the learning process, I feel.
Sure. Okay. I don't think we solved any problems, but that's kind of where we stand on it.
I feel like it's an unsolvable problem.
Unsolvable. Play what you want to play.
You ready to move on to some emails?
Let's do it. Email. Yeah, I think, like you said, though, accepting it and not feeling guilty about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think it is easy to turn something that you enjoy, something that is essentially a hobby, into a...
chore,
burden, a cross on your back, and like you don't do that.
Final Fantasy VI was that, but it's like, one day I'll play it. I will get there,
and also, like
I'll get there.
Presumably you're gonna be alive for a lot longer. I hope.
Yeah,
and it's okay. Like Damiani was saying, like it's okay to not be part of the zeitgeist, to come to something later or to return to something later. Just follow your heart, man.
Yeah. The zeitgeist is hard though, because it's like
hard. With like
it's
MMOs
tough.
Specifically.
It's tough because there definitely is something magical about playing a game in the moment versus later when everyone has solved it.
Oh, absolutely.
Going through a game where you're like, wow, everyone's already done this. Yeah. Everyone's already solved it. Like, everyone already knows the big secrets and the meta and the loot and. So I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very fair.
Just depends on the game, I guess. Like you were saying about Metroidvania, though, and like Dead Cells and less story-focused games, I think that moment lasts longer. So,
our first email comes in from Andrew, and it's a very simple question that I want to talk about. It actually kind of precedes news that happened this morning with Diablo 3 coming on Switch. Coming to Switch officially. Hey, allies, I just finished...
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Diablo 4 at BlizzCon? Is that...
Well, I finished Diablo 3 over 2 years ago, and I really liked it. I must admit, however, I have missed the last couple of updates. I keep telling myself I'll just wait for the sequel, but where is the sequel? When do you think we will hear about Diablo 4, and what would you like to see in it?
All right. So we just got World of Warcraft. We got StarCraft 2 finished, wrapped a couple years ago. Overwatch has already come out.
Yep.
Hearthstone, numerous expansions. It's Diablo's turn. You know, if we're taking turns here, which Blizzard usually does, it's their turn.
So you think it's coming?
And I really do think it's coming. Now, is that a BlizzCon 2018 announcement? I'd be hesitant to place that bet.
Is that
but
a
I wouldn't
BlizzCon
argue that
2018 announcement and a 2026 release?
No.
Maybe.
You know, I after the Diablo 3 launch, you know, they're going to want to get it right this time around.
Right, but
you know?
like that makes me even more hesitant to when we'll actually see it.
Yeah.
But
I think I really do though. I think it's a safe bet that Diablo 4 will be announced within a year or two, honestly.
okay.
I really do.
I think the
really
more interesting question is, what do you want out of it? What would make Diablo 4 exciting?
My goodness. I don't know, honestly. That's such a hard question for no reason. It's like, what do? You just give me more Diablo, right? But
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, how can you evolve the dungeon crawler more, you know? Something to do with multiplayer? I don't know. I can't see it. You know what I mean? I can't see Diablo 4 in my brain other than Diablo 3 with like better visuals.
So in Diablo, you pick a very specific type of character, say a barbarian, and you can do different builds for that character. What if the pool was a little bit more mixed, where it's like, okay, yes, you are still going to start with something, you're going to have an area of expertise, but then you can blend stuff with other classes and really make some sort of crazy hybrid? Would that be fun?
Yeah, like a hybrid class?
Yeah.
For sure.
Like,
yeah, it'd be a bold change. It would also be the thing that kind of like upends, you know, the traditional class-based Diablo dungeon crawler. I could see something like that. I just know multiplayer and live games are hot right now, and daily events and incentive to keep up with the game and come back in every day. So I
think that's to be expected.
Yeah,
though, right. You're gonna get
some online stuff for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I know one thing Diablo 3 never really panned out. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure. Like, PvP never really.
No.
They have like this silly arena guy you can talk to now.
Right.
But that was never really balanced.
It wasn't what they originally intended it to be.
Yeah. So I think nailing PvP this time around is a very safe bet for Diablo 4 because it was pretty much non-existent in 3.
I think that's a really good bet.
So
that was not something I thought of, and I think that's a really good bet. Damiani, do you have any interest in Diablo?
Not entirely.
Yeah.
I took interest in the arc that Diablo 3 took from development standpoint, from the initial reception to them working to make it a better experience, and ultimately arriving at a point which I think the consensus is it's a very good game right now, or much better, very much better than what it was in its original state.
Heck yeah.
I would say, I don't have enough experience with Diablo. I mean, the joke answer was I saw the announcement, the Switch thing, and then Zelda bonus crap coming to that on the Switch. I was like, okay.
Wait, is that true?
Yeah, it was a Game Explain headline, so I'm assuming it's true. It was on the title of the video. Unless they're trolling me. And everyone else, but it sounded like they're putting some like Zelda items or something into it.
Dude, Ganondorf boss would be awesome.
Their thumbnail was Ganondorf from Ocarina of Time, so it was like, okay,
I want to fight him.
Maybe that's gonna be there. I mean, it's a gimmick to do that, but I think the best thing, like it being the next game, the next new game announced, would be a good thing because they've learned so many good lessons from rebuilding Diablo 3.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they realize, like, probably like a lot of games have gone through this, they're still at its core stuck with what Diablo 3 was. And it might be more liberating for them to in a better way to achieve the product that the game that they dreamt of, by starting from scratch, essentially. Like, let's just shed all this, take the lessons we learned, and build a brand new Diablo and go for like what we really want, like now. And yeah, it seems like of all the games, it's prime because every other game you mentioned is in a good place or just had something new come out for it, and it's had its
time.
Yeah, it feels like it's time.
You know what?
StarCraft 2 would be the only other one, but it feels like Diablo is
StarCraft
the one.
StarCraft 2's gone for a bit, I feel like.
But like Diablo has like the buzz and stuff, I feel like right now. So it's like this rumored Switch release. Like, why do they make like a big deal about this? It's like maybe they got some more Diablo news.
My dream is more exploration. An emphasis on exploration. They added adventure mode later down the line, which is super cool. Kind of randomizes things. You like do little missions and fight bosses, and that kind of you build up, combos for doing a bunch of quests in a row. But more exploration,
Is it free to play?
No.
I think it is. I really do.
Cosmetic skins in that
I mean,
game.
Blizzard,
I would put a small amount of money on
like
it.
the Overwatch model, I think, is so solid, but Fortnite is like that too, but just free.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that's a tough one. I don't think so, dude. I don't think Blizzard's ready to. Hearthstone though.
I wonder if Path of Exile being free to play and being so generous really incentivizes that. I could understand if Diablo was the only thing in the field, but because it's not, I think you generate potential negative press at the gate.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Dude, if Diablo 4 was announced as free to play
on your phone.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be free, but I'm ready for it. I know Ian's ready. Ian's
ready.
like Torment 39.
Yeah. That'll be a good day when Diablo 4 comes out.
Yes, absolutely.
Next email comes in from Carlo. He says, "Hey, Ben and guest, during my vacation, I've been reflecting on some of the gaming experiences I've had in the past few months, and my thoughts keep returning to Dishonored, Death of the Outsider. Obviously, it is not a full-fledged sequel to Dishonored 2, but I do feel like it moves the series forward with significant gameplay improvements. And even though I am not alone in loving the improvements they have made to the formula, I can't shake the feeling that it has gotten overlooked. Not for a lack of quality, but because of its nature as a DLC/standalone game. By its nature, it seems to me that a DLC can't ever really reach the success of a mainline series game, especially in the case of standalone DLC. It seems to me that the label DLC is way more harmful than beneficial. Does anyone on the panel share my frustration of gaming experiences being overlooked because they are DLC?
100%.
What could developers/publishers do to get rid of the problem? Should we just give standalone DLC a different name?"
Yeah, that's a big... that's still installed on my PS4, ready to play. That's one of the biggest daggers that I missed, Hey,
everybody. So something happened that I don't think has happened before on a frame trap. We ran out of space on the card. So there might be a weird
3-hour
awkward...
frame trap.
Yeah, 3-hour frame trap. There might be a weird awkward edit there. That's just because we ran out of space and had to put in a new card and format it and put it into the rest of this.
I was mid-Dishonored convo.
Right. So just to refresh you really quick, we were talking about standalone DLC, and do you think the nature of standalone DLC is a problem?
Uncharted Lost Legacy is a 10 out of 10.
You didn't give it a 10.
I know. Okay. Uncharted Lost Legacy is amazing, and it just kind of came and went. Dishonored, Death of the Outsider. I don't know anyone personally that played it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird. On one hand, it feels better because then people can just buy into what they want to buy into and play it. Like if you didn't want to play Dishonored 2.
I feel like that never works though.
Yeah, I also feel like it never works. It's weird.
Like a lot of times I've had this experience where I'm like, hey, you can just play this. It's okay. And I feel like people have this anxiety where they're like, I hear you, but I'm actually going to play everything that came before it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that's natural.
Totally.
I think even if you say like, hey, you don't need this, people are going to want to play Dishonored 2. They know that character is introduced in that game. They want that context.
Well, the biggest problem with Dishonored and the main reason I didn't even play it was because it's basically a sequel DLC to Dishonored 1 DLC. It wraps up basically a trilogy of...
You did not play Dishonored 1
DLC? I hadn't finished Dishonored 1 DLC, and I don't think like a lot of people missed it, I know, but... those are amazing. Just Death of the Outsider, I heard, is amazing, but it's just kind of hidden beneath,
Right.
So, yeah, it's tough. I mean, even another example, Wolfenstein: The Old Blood.
Right.
And that even is a prequel to it all. So really, it's like, if you want to try Wolfenstein, you can dive right into this. But still, I kind of feel like that came and went.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know. Standalone DLC, good in theory, bad in practice. Never.
Yeah, it's one of those things though where we're like, we wish we would have played that, or I wish that would have got more attention. But they keep doing it, so maybe it's not as dire straits as we think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to sit here and make a problem out of something that isn't actually a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But we can, of course, still speak from our own experiences. Damiani, do you have issues with standalone DLC just as a player?
I mean, I still cling a little bit to the old guard mentality of that. It's not practical. It's the age we live in. It's how games have to survive. But I do lament the days of everything just being put into the game, and then like you just get you got a standalone expansion or add-on. So if they want to do something new, and it was like a big deal when that happened. So I actually like the concept of standalone, like significant content DLCs more than piecemeal smaller things. Like the upcoming, like things I'm excited about, like the upcoming, the Torna thing for Valkyria Chronicles 2. They like touted like there was confusion at first, but it's like, hey, you don't. This is standalone.
Yeah.
I
just feel like to appreciate the narrative in that, you're gonna want.
The caveat is that one you would definitely probably want to play the main game. There's other ones where they aren't technically standalone; they're close to it, like the recent Mario and Rabbids DLC, the Donkey Kong Adventure. They want you to play the main game enough to a certain point where you know the basics of the game, because there is no tutorial feature in the standalone DLC. So once you've played enough of the main game, like, hey, you understand it, you beat like the first level or whatever it is, now go back and you can play that. I like that. That was like really good. You did not need to know the story of anything like that. It was like, felt like it was a sequel. It's like, wow, they could have fleshed this out and made an entirely new game, and it would have been like awesome. I find it the least offensive of the DLC types out there, honestly.
I wonder if there's this perception that, like, I think of Left Behind on Last of Us, and it's adding on to a legendary game, this masterpiece. It's part of it. When you get this DLC, you're continuing, The Last of Us, you're diving back in. Whereas when it's standalone, maybe the perception is that it's lesser or a filler or a spin-off type.
Yeah, it's weird
like
because
it's its own thing, so it should be over there, rather than it's like, no, we're going back into it.
I love The Last of Us. No one loves The Last of Us more than you, but I quite like The Last of Us a lot. I like Left Behind even more.
A lot of people do.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And that happens every once in a while. And so I don't necessarily, when I think of Left Behind, I don't think of it as lesser.
Because it's like part of the Last of Us package rather than a standalone thing, though. If they sold Left Behind on its own, do you think there would be that perception, like, oh, just some Last of Us spin-off? Maybe people don't buy in?
Just I think you could only play Left Behind and still get a lot out of it. Maybe not as much as somebody who obviously played through The Last of Us, but I think you can appreciate that story and those characters on their own, even if you don't have a history with them.
But I can probably say the same for Old Blood. I'm just thinking of like the consumer perspective of like, oh, didn't they already make this game? Like, oh, is this just a spin-off?
Yeah, I guess thinking of Old Blood and sometimes just kind of thinking about standalone DLC because like Undead Nightmare, for example, or the infamous Festival of Blood, was that what it's called?
Yeah, Infamous 2. I
don't know if I want to be like, you know, this isn't getting a ton of attention, so to do this, because it's kind of like an excuse to take this thing that you love and maybe get a little bit weird with it or try out new directions. And I think that's a valuable space. Like, of course, it's not going to get as much attention as the main game, but for those that are invested or for those that are kind of willing to go whatever direction it goes, I like that. I like that kind of freedom that it allows for.
Like, I think of Old Hunters, Bloodborne, and I think of Bloodborne now as one big, complete 10 out of 10 package.
It's weird,
but if Old Hunters was its own thing, it's like, all right, well, you have Bloodborne, which is like the best.
Right.
And you have this, which is amazing, obviously, but it's like not enough, so it's like gonna live in Bloodborne's shadow, even though it's more of Bloodborne, you know? It's just
I think a lot of it comes down to presentation, though, because Dark Souls or Bloodborne, when they add on, it is go to this part of the world and then go down this new path that we've opened up. It really feels like adding on to. I can't, and when I think of Bloodborne, I can't really separate Old Hunters. Like, it just...
But if they wanted to, they could have. Development-wise, they could have been like, no, we're going to do our own little thing. You start in this location and go through.
But that'd be weird because then you would have to... If you sell it on its own, you'd have to give people like a character with a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. But think about The Witcher, for example, in standalone DLC, because that has gotten a ton of praise for how it is presented and how flexible it is, where you can bring in what you've done or you can start over. Totally. Do you think that maybe that's the direction more standalone DLC needs to go, where it feels really consequential if you've already done it, but it's not that big of a deal if you haven't?
Yeah.
You just want to experience this little slice?
That's smart. Yeah, and then... Yeah. I don't know. I was going to go with that. Yeah. Just
Lost in Nightmare, Huber.
Dude, yes. It was only like $5 when it came out, too. So epic.
Mansion, baby.
So good.
Oh, you're talking about
Lost
Resident Evil 5.
Yeah,
Yes. Oh, it's so good.
Chris and Jill, baby.
So good. Fixed cameras for a second, dude.
Yeah.
So good.
Our last email comes in from Doug. He says, hello. I recently sat down to play a popular new game. I started a run, and after 20 minutes of collecting items and killing enemies, I made it near the end, only to die and lose all of my progress. I was about to start again, thinking that next time luck will be on my side, until I realized I wasn't even having fun. I just lost 20 minutes, and I was only playing because I was addicted to the idea of almost winning. I had to stop playing because I wasn't getting any form of enjoyment from Fortnite. So my question is,
we got trolled.
What games have you had to pull yourself away from because you were getting addicted and you realized that you weren't even enjoying them?
Something I was addicted to that I wasn't enjoying.
Yeah, I think like the nature of the question is
Hearthstone.
Where it's just
Hearthstone.
That's it for me too.
Hearthstone. Next.
It's not really fair to say this when a new expansion has just dropped and there's so much going on with that game, but it really felt like a force of habit where it was like, okay, I've seen the decks that people are playing. This isn't really changing all that much, and I'm just doing it because I've done it for years. And at that point, I was like, no, I should stop.
Need a break.
Yeah.
Like a long break.
And I think
we will be back to Hearthstone one day.
Well, it's a scary thought. It was more of a reflection on me than the game, I thought. Where it was just like, anytime you do something intensely for years, I think it's okay to just not anymore. You know,
and
go experience new avenues.
And that's the thing. I want to compare Fortnite to StarCraft really quick. My personal experiences. StarCraft, in the beginning, learning it was still really, really fun. And same with Fortnite. But right out of the gate, Doug is not having fun with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's okay to hang it up. Whereas StarCraft, I was immediately having fun, getting raffle stomped. Let's bring that back again. Getting raffle stomped in StarCraft, but wanted to keep playing to learn to get better, which of course you eventually do.
Right.
So I think, yeah, I mean, it just end of the day, if you're not having fun even right out of the gate, like just there's too many other options.
I think I agree with you.
But there is that learning curve, you know?
Exactly.
But at the same time, Fortnite for me started fun. I was like lukewarm but fun. I was like, oh, it's fun, like it's good. Obviously, then I played for a week straight and was like, okay, yes, now I'm good. Now I get it. Now everything's clicking. Now I understand what I'm looking at, understand what to do, and it's way more fun now than, of course, it was. But to be fair, just like StarCraft, I was having fun right out of the gate.
I think you kind of have to split it down the middle, where if you are like, hey, I only want to play things that I immediately have fun with, I think that's fine. I think, again, this is what you're doing for your entertainment. You don't have to justify it to people, you know, whatever you want to do. But I also think you do need to be aware that these things come in different packages, right? Like when I pick up a Mario game, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be having fun right away. When I pick up a new fighting game, it's like, all right, this is going to be brutal for a long time.
Forever.
Right. Like where I have to go and try to figure out this character, try to figure out these systems, try to figure out what this language means, try to figure out what other characters can do. And admittedly, I enjoy that process, but I think overcoming that is even more enjoyable. And so it's kind of a delayed gratification. And if you can be okay with that, that's sometimes, or most of the time, even way more satisfying than the immediately fun stuff. I think part of the reason you're so attached to Fortnite is because you had to learn it.
Of course.
If you knew everything in the first match, just wouldn't be fun.
It's got that StarCraft and Counter-Strike vibe, you know? Like, I even remember Counter-Strike, you know?
Absolutely.
1.3, just like, but it was fun back then. I mean, I kind of did the same with Fortnite, though, where it's like, all right, just gonna get one kill. You know? Like, that little, miniature game within the game is so much fun. It's like, all right, just one. But that's all I need.
With I went through the exact same thing with Counter-Strike, where it was like, I am bad. Oh, getting a little better. Oh, getting a little better. Okay, I can hold my own. But I went through that process because I recognized immediately that this game was worth it. That it was just so much fun to play. So I think you have to recognize that at the game.
And that's with Doug, you know, if he just didn't like it. Like,
or if it's not worth the effort. I mean, is there anything that you dropped because it wasn't fun and you just kind of had that moment where you're like, wait, I don't even like this?
Lightning Returns. Literally, because I'd played all Final Fantasy 13 multiple times. I platinum Final Fantasy 13 too.
Wait, you played Final Fantasy 13 multiple times?
Yeah, Japanese and English.
Yeah, hero among men.
Started Lightning Returns, got about maybe an hour. Might not have even been an hour.
Yeah, so you're still solving the mystery.
I just stared at my screen for a little bit. I was like, I'm not doing this shit again. I just turned it off. I'm like, nope, not again. We're done. Like, I couldn't take it. I was like, no.
Lightning Returns is a fascinating game.
I feel like one day I'll regret playing through certain games. Like, I'll be old and be like, wow, you know, if I just had those 50 hours from Lightning Returns to learn maybe the clarinet again. Maybe I should have done that.
I regret finishing Duke Nukem Forever.
Yep.
Like, I was so curious about this game that took ages to make,
gosh.
and I had some childhood affinity for Duke Nukem. But no, I really got what I needed to after a couple of hours. There was nothing gained by seeing credits to Duke Nukem Forever.
That's such a good example. Same thing. I felt I had to finish out of obligation to this historical thing. I was like,
exactly.
This isn't good, right?
No.
This isn't good.
No.
Can I end?
The ending cutscene though, kind of made it worth it for me.
Hubert, I swear to you, I finished the game and I do not remember the ending cutscene.
Paris.
Nope.
Real life.
Oh, for Lightning Returns.
Yeah.
I'm talking Duke Nukem Forever.
Oh,
I don't remember the ending cutscene.
No idea. Okay. Yeah, no idea.
Duke Nukem Forever. Of course I remember it. Yeah. Okay.
That made it worth it.
Yeah, Lightning Returns. Okay.
It became a model, so we close.
Yeah. Yep.
I can't believe you finished Never Dead, Huber. Good on you.
Gamefly. It's the only reason.
Gamefly, yeah.
Get my money's worth. Finish the games that come.
Boy, games we regret finishing is an interesting one.
Good top 10 countdown list.
For work.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen often. Even if I really don't like a game,
it's really hard.
It's rare that I'm like, I regret finishing that.
I don't regret many. Even like Alien versus Predator.
Oh, yeah.
I don't
regret it. Did you finish Colonial Marines?
Yeah.
I think I finished Colonial
Marines.
Marines
That's what I meant.
too.
Colonial Marines.
Yeah. Yeah, that game was terrible.
Apparently
the final fight against the Queen, you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, that was bad. That was really bad. Game sucks.
Apparently it's better now, dude. They fixed the code. You saw that, right?
But wasn't the article like, okay, they made it
still
better, but
bad.
it's still terrible?
Yes.
Yeah.
100% yes.
Yeah.
Danny, are there games that you regret finishing?
Finishing. I don't know.
It is kind of a tough question.
Yeah.
That's why I like trophies, dude, and achievements.
Yeah.
Records. No, records.
Oh, yeah.
Can look back, remember what you played, what you finished. You know?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like a diary.
Yeah.
A little journal.
I don't think I felt that bad about finishing a game. If I got to that point, I think I would have quit the game before getting to the end.
That's
good on you.
That's a fair comment.
Good on you.
Okay, well, I think that's going to do it for Frame Trap. This episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it to this point in the episode, apologies for the card filling up, but
they like it. 5-hour Frame Trap.
They like the card filling up. Yeah, if you want to support us, please go to patreon.com/easyhours. You can see what we're all about. We're going to be at a beach house very soon for 50 hours playing nonstop games. It'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully you join us for that. And thank you to my guests, Michael Huber and Michael Damiani, for your insight, for your opinions, for your hot takes. I appreciate it. And once again, thank you so much for watching. Until next time.